this is Josh Safdie.
This is Benny Safdie.
This is Ronald Bronstein.
This is Sebastian Bear-McClard.
And Benny and I directed it. We wrote it with Ronnie Bronstein, and Benny and Ronnie edited it, and Sibo's produced it.
Quickly, we made this. We made it blue.
Oh yeah, this is it's our blue period.
Spacey. Sci-fi, baby.
Hassan Rahim did these titles. Kept looking for some sort of ancient parabolic text. Albertus felt right. This was in Okeep, South Africa. Ronnie actually displayed a weak throwing arm, throwing rocks into
That was sad.
How big was that hole that we just saw?
That hole was the size of a skyscraper.
Yeah, it was massive. This is a copper mine that is secretly still active.
Dangerous.
Dangerous.
Actively dangerous.
We had complete control over this. These are mostly Ethiopian actors who live in South Africa. We weren't allowed to shoot in Ethiopia because it's the Welo mines are currently inhabited by Boko Haram, so it's kind of dangerous. This guy right here, the Chinese manager,
My ponytail guy.
It was kind of this was kind of like a prison experiment, the Stanford prison experiment, because everyone took on their roles, and I remember Maceo, who was shooting this, he genuinely felt endangered because the contention between the Chinese management and the miners grew to a fever, and people started throwing things, and this mine was the first time we scouted it. Remember, Ronnie? We had to take a little plane every single day to this place. I hate flying, but we were in this mine, and the first time we looked at it, I fell into a plinth hole, and each time we came back, there were more and more safety restrictions, which really showed the improvised nature of this entire section of the shoot. We prepped 9 days for a one-day shoot in Africa. While I was in this mine, Ronnie and Sibo were...
Yeah, I was shooting B-roll for the footage that eventually shows up on Howard's iPhone. The 60 minutes footage about the history of the Ethiopian Jews. So Sibo and I were working with a group of Muslim men during Ramadan and asking them to wear yarmulkes. So
the banging of the chiseling there, we were told by a safety professional, not to make loud noises, and we had a special part of the cave there of the mine there that was dedicated to be tapped lightly, and these two actors just went in on it, and I was just so nervous.
I want to just say, those guys are very courageous for not wearing masks during that scene. The air in there was dangerous air.
Oh, very dangerous. Yeah, they told us we weren't allowed to. Yeah, you weren't allowed to drink water.
And bats.
This this sequence, I spent a lot of time with Brainstorm, with Iran Danur and Rainstorm VFX to do our journey here through the gem.
It is computer graphics, but they have physical models, which made it even more interesting. Like, we'd ask for them to do certain things, and they would say, well, the physical world in this computer world won't allow it.
The title here is done by Randy Balsmeyer, who has done many great titles with the Coens and Bob Altman and Spike Lee.
It was actually modeled after some of the signs we saw in the Dime District.
Yeah. Here's as we're...
And
I remember when Ronnie...
This is your colon, right, Ronnie?
Yep, somewhere maybe at the halfway point of the writing process, I'd gotten my first colonoscopy, and I was
When you
shocked.
say halfway, it was 10 years or so,
Yeah,
5 years
yeah.
into the process of
Right,
writing this.
and I was surprised to discover that after talking to the doctor that colon issues were sort of sewn up into Jewish genetics. So yeah, it was a...
But the connection between the gem and the opal, this is the first spoiler that Howard is the opal. This coming up with these graphics here is probably the most expositional we've ever been.
I also
you
remember...
get to know. Actually, I'm upset that it doesn't say Lenox Hill Hospital, but you get to see his age, 48, his full name Howard Ratner.
I remember looking at all the different colons, and we had to find one that was relatively clean.
Oh
because
yeah, a dirty
you
colon
don't want
is
you don't want to
absolutely
see
disgusting.
That. You
No
don't
one
wanna
wants to
see
see that. I mean, this is
This guy is very clean.
it's a clean colon. The doctor here is our agent's father. And he, poor guy, he was on set for like 16 hours waiting to shoot this. This was on a stage.
And this was actually the final shot of
Principal photography.
And Sandler was exhausted, and he was actually asleep in this shot.
So the movie takes place in 2012, purely for pragmatic reasons, because we centered the film around Kevin Garnett's performance.
Again, we didn't close this street, so you can see New York City alive.
This we closed down. This was all. Except we kept
had
parts of it
yes.
open.
For years, we had a scene where it was in the waiting room after the procedure, and he had no chaperone, and he had to sort of find a way to finagle himself out of the doctor's office.
This set was.
This was a set, which was very
Set
nice.
was a lot of fun. It's the type of thing that you
Keith-
dream up and you write about that dream, and it becomes so reified over the course of a decade that. It becomes a point of frustration with your art department, but they did a great job eventually.
A lot of
Cash Out right there, who was
Cash
really
Out.
big. In 2012, he had one of the biggest hits called Cashin' Out.
We have a lot of real jewelers in there. We have Andrea and Maxud. We just passed.
Well,
them.
this is Keith Williams Richards right here, who is one of the great discoveries of this movie. If you ask him about his past, most of his answers end with "Let's leave it at that."
He's a real, it is what it is
Okay.
kind of guy.
This is our own spring water. Everyone on the block in the Diamond District has their own thing that they try to separate, that they try to
vodka,
create.
wine. Yeah.
A lot of people have their own vodka. Greg Una has 3 kilos of vodka. Everyone has their own vodka in the Diamond District. But we always said to Sandler, asked early on, he says, Howard drink? I said, Howard does not drink. He is not a drinker. He's got enough going on. He's not interested in it. Maybe it's a Jewish thing. He said, water is going to be KMH's thing.
That was a small thing, but they were both in the movie. Sandler and Keith actually they did a lot of their stunts, so that was interesting.
Yeah, that was a nasty slap.
Yeah, big time.
This scene, there's a much longer version of it that features a monologue by Keith that is just petrifying. It centers around the burning of a dog, but we cut this down and condensed it into a title sequence here, credit sequence. So Tommy, right there. What did Tommy say to you, Benny, the other day? He sent you a text. His mom?
Oh yeah, he sent me a picture of his mom going to the movie theater, and he said, "Look at how proud my mom is."
He used voice dictation.
He used voice, so
it
it
said,
read to me, "Look it up, proud my mom is."
But if you say that quickly, look it up, proud
look
my
up proud
mom is.
my mom is. It's amazing.
I love that.
Tommy was so excited. It was amazing to just see him fold into it all.
Yeah, Tommy and Keith were special casting decisions.
See, this was fun to have to figure out how.
Well, all
what
these
fake-
extras,
yes,
all
the real background was really fun to kind of figure out.
This block is such a specific block in New York. It's 31st between First and FDR, and
Listen for the FDR and all these scenes.
This is the actual building that he was entering right there. It's Palm Clementieff here, who
She had a much larger.
yeah, we cut a bunch of her. I mean,
That's Sibo.
She's
That's
a
your
great
dad.
actress.
It's your dad's painting.
Siamese twins.
there's
Always reminds me of 2 of my mother, which is weirdly creepy.
that table someone just recently.
Dakota, I think it's Dakota Jack.
I don't know.
Jackson.
This is so this scene here. This was Julia's first scene that we shot with her, and it's her first film. So she thought it would be appropriate if her character, because her character didn't sleep last night, she would stay up all night in kind of emotional prep for the scene, and this was originally a 6-page scene that has a lot of ups and downs. It was a very difficult one for actors to go hot, cold, hot, cold. But it was amazing to see her eventually trudge through. But it was, at first we were all kind of rolling our eyes that she did that, but she's incredible here.
I want to just shout out to Darius Kanji, because this scene is actually because it was such a long scene, we were going to be shooting all day, so we had to have complete control, and that's a a built window with fake light coming out of it, and it's just so beautiful.
Why you have to ruin the?
It's part of that's why people are listening to this. They want to hear, they want to see behind it.
They want it ruined.
Yeah.
Josh. Ruin it.
This is the ruining.
Darius is a
What were you
necromancer.
gonna say, Ronzo?
I remember watching Darius cut small felt triangles and affixing them to the ceiling. It was mystifying.
Yeah, what do they do? They
This
reduce.
photo shoot was shot by the great photographer
it.
Daniel Arnold.
I think those triangles they reduce
And what I
the
love about-
exposure on one part of the frame.
Well, he was very upset
Yeah.
China Mac.
when somebody
There's
on the
China
set took
Mac
him down.
right there in the background. Great local rapper. This actually right here, Sam she's a big bling rapper in Chinatown.
Bling jeweler.
Bling jeweler, sorry, bling rapper. She's also bling rapper. That Michael Jackson piece we built for the movie.
Yeah.
Mike Friend says it here. We wanted to cast the real bookie, Sibo's real bookie.
Love you.
Yeah, no name mentioned. But when we had this inspired idea to include the sports pope in a movie about sports degeneracy, there is a spiritual connection between Mike Francesa and
They're
Mike,
outer
remember-
borough Italian guys who like to dress sharp.
Yes,
They-
remember, like Mike said, he's like, oh, I know exactly who to model this after. And he brought his own suits, and he's
Yes.
very proud that he's like, I didn't have to go through 1 second of hair and makeup.
that scene was longer in the script.
that scene was great.
That's Josh in the background.
Yes, that was my cameo.
Oh, Tommy with an amazing fall.
So
Yeah, he was actually he didn't want to get punched. He was very proud.
Yeah, look at a guy like that
And
doesn't
he's
want
like-
to get punched.
yeah, and he's like,
that's
but then when
Todd
we told-
Vopio right here, who was Sandler trailed a lot for the movie. He's a real jeweler, and a lot of Howard comes from Todd.
But-
he was really generous in his time and energy.
I remember when we showed Tommy who was actually going to punch him. He's like, "Okay, I'd buy that."
That's one of
Sean
the-
right there. Sean is actually he was on One Life to Live, which was pretty amazing.
That guy played football at Notre Dame. That stunt man who looks like a teddy bear.
And these are all live security cameras that you're seeing, which actually was helpful on the set because you had to have.
There's a high
little-
pitched sound right there with the door when the door opens that came from an additional sound recording day in the Diamond District when we went through a real double door system. Kevin Garnett, man, this scene, as a director, you have these landmarks in your script and your production where you have a lot of extras, and they induce a certain sort of anxiety. But when you're actually on the set, there's kind of like a big safety net to fall on because it just oozes life and I think demands great performances.
Yeah, and everybody's talking in this scene.
Right.
Everybody's talking.
Right.
And
Every cut is like microsurgery.
yeah, it's literally insane. And then on top of that, the blocking is changing at every microsecond too. So
This part right here in the script here where Howard says, let me clean your earrings for you, came from time in the Diamond District research is something that we know that in particular with Todd. He said when you get a big high profile client in, you want to get the jewelry off of them as soon as possible, and it for a number of reasons. A, it allows you to look at the jewelry up close, and then you can criticize it. B, it makes the client feel naked, and they subconsciously want to fill that void and buy something new. And C, it's a nice gesture to give.
it's also
it doesn't cost you anything.
It's
to
also
criticize
not
it.
nice to criticize it when it's on their
Well,
body.
you can't.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't see it up close. So these are.
It's also
so the Furby here.
It's also just being.
You know what's
conscientious.
crazy is we thought the Michael Jackson piece was going to be the iconic piece of the movie, and the Furby, which we went through such great lengths to create. Those eyes are so frightened. It's incredible to see how much love the Furby gets. Right there, that's Arthur, who's
Another jeweler.
Another jeweler. This sequence right here on set, Sandler we embraced each other, and we did like 25 back and forths where he came in and out. Yeah, he's a crazy ass Jew. We're all crazy ass Jews. That's Roman, who's also he works for Todd, who was in the hallway earlier. So when I was doing, I won't say names, but when we've been on this junk tour, press tour, if you want to call it that, this subplot in the film, the fake Rolex hustle, was a much bigger one over the years, and I got really deep into my research, and there was a handful of people, critics or what have you, who were very interested in knowing about the details of the fake Rolex hustle and where to get them, and if I could share emails with the suppliers, and I did. The Rolex, by the way, the fake Rolex hustle, they make the movement in the same factory in Switzerland that the fakes are so good that sometimes the authorities have a hard time telling.
I remember, Ronnie, because Kevin kept going up and down, and we're such sticklers about that we literally have to make it match every single time.
The sound in the background here was probably, as an
Insane.
editor.
I mean, you have 6-7 people mic'd. Everyone's talking over each other. So you're really finding micro spaces between syllables to conjoin shots.
This right here, when the cameras kind of move in for these tighter close-ups between the two of them, it feels almost like you're getting to see the main event at a boxing arena. You're getting to see Sandler and Lakeith kind of go toe-to-toe, and it to me is when the movie really kind of lets you...
It clicks in.
Click
Yeah.
in,
And it's
yeah.
like, and it's this moment in particular where everybody's like, oh, well, why is everybody talking? It's because this moment feels so much more real
it's
when
also-
everybody is talking in the background.
It's also they're partners, and I like that about. Oh, so Darian, who's showing up with the package here, Darian. So this was a stage, so we did our best to bring as much of 47th Street as we could. So Darian is the most trusted FedEx delivery guy on the block in Diamond District, and as you can imagine, packages in the Diamond District are extremely valuable. Everyone knows what's in them, even if they're generically marked. And he hasn't taken a day off of work his entire time working with FedEx. And when the jewelers saw him on set, they said, "Is that Darian?" I said, "Yeah." Like, how'd you get Darian to be in this movie? I said, "We just begged him. It was hard. It was just as hard as getting Sandler. A little less hard, but he was incredible." Yussi, man, this is Maxud, who has Tracks NYC, and people are getting a kick out of finding his Instagram and seeing
Because
his rants on his
he
IGTV and
can't help
seeing
but
that
be
this
himself.
is just as you imagine looking through fish while watching his Instagram.
He's a real natural ranter.
Well,
He'll just rant.
Yeah, he can't help but be himself, and that's what's beautiful.
Remember that pile of clothing? Actually, when we were doing research in the Diamond District one day, these guys came in. Actually, we feature them later in the movie, and they would boost from Bloomingdale's, and they would bring this incredible designer clothing in at an amazing discount. Actually, Sandler made me buy a jacket off of them because they were trying to sell it to Sandler because he clearly had the money for it. I ended up buying a nice jacket.
It looked better on you.
It did. This opal, we spent a lot of time trying to create this. It's about $150,000 worth of opals. Some of them precious black, some of them...
We put a lot of romance into that stone.
Yeah. I think we even shot one at one point and had to reshoot it.
People were flying all over the country to get these stones, you know?
And then we
There
had
you
to
go.
return some of them.
Oh, yeah,
eyeballs.
say eyes.
Yeah, I had been projecting Lord of the Rings, of all things, and there was a moment when Ian Holmes' eyes changed color, and that became the inspiration for those diminishing eyeball effect in that moment. Just so subtle, I wonder how many people pick up on it.
People are picking up on it.
They are now. It's funny to hear that. We added all these cell phone rings, which is funny.
Everyone there is checking out all the pictures that are on the wall there, which are loaned to us from Izzy Aviani, whose son appears in the movie as Sandler's son. One of my favorite lines right there.
And
I was watching the History Channel,
Kevin was
trying to learn shit.
Kevin was so good here, and this is probably like
Oh, I love that line too.
One
though.
of the
Hold
hardest.
on.
No, I'm in the middle of saying
Lakeith's
something.
line,
I'm in the middle of saying
Everybody
something.
wants to be a Jew. He
I'm
wants
in the
everyone
middle
to be
of
a
saying
Jew.
something.
I'm
Kevin
just trying
here.
to get deep here, Benny.
Me too. I'm talking about Kevin. The fact that Kevin had to really just get into not only what Howard's saying, but an inanimate object. You know, it's such a
not
difficult
easy.
thing to do. No,
Yeah.
and he just totally folded in. And
Here's
it's
that
beautiful.
footage, by the way, the B-roll footage that Sibo and I shot while Josh was in the cave.
During Ramadan.
Yeah.
And take a look out for somebody actually
Those guys,
cracking
those
the rock,
guys were
right?
so
generous.
This
they
guy
were-
right
these
there.
guys were really generous.
There's our
That's-
guy on the right.
yeah.
He's the one whose leg gets busted up at the beginning of opening
Yeah,
shot
all
of
the
film.
everyone in Africa, in South Africa, we shot with was unbelievable. It was really professional and dedicated crew. It's like the nicest moment between Julie and Howard. No,
I love how little the stone looks in Kevin's hands. You know, when Howard was holding it, it was
So
massive.
that he says, check this out. It's my favorite, my best loop. That is Todd Volpio's loop, who, as you saw in the hallway earlier, and he was so nervous about it. He would have lent us so much jewelry, but that loop was what he was most nervous about lending us.
And he
right
had to,
there.
once he lent it to us, he had to give it to us for a long time because that's Howard's loop, and it's got to stay with us the whole production. He did not like that.
You have here Daniel's beautiful score coming back in here, which is inspired by the space-based creation of Constance Demby, which is a instrument she created to erupt your chakras. Middle Earth shit is in the line that Ronnie, you were always like, you like that line, right, Josh? and I it doesn't make any sense, but that's why I like it. And Kevin didn't have any pictures of himself growing up, so we had to really go through a lot.
For that moment, we actually had we had the buzzer,
Well,
and
no,
we
the
didn't
detonator.
with the detonator, and we didn't tell anybody when it was going to happen. So we let the scene play. Everybody was talking, and we controlled when it was going to happen to keep it as a total surprise. So if you rewind it back, you'll see everybody's face when that happens. I always like looking at that.
Yeah,
Here's the moment where Kevin becomes an actor.
yes, I agree.
This frustration.
It's not for sale.
I can't do it. God damn it! It's set for auction. I can't.
Why the fuck would you show me something if I couldn't have it then?
And I remember, I remember talking to Kevin, and it's like just the fact that like you have to be comfortable, just showing that, even though it's fake. You know, you have to
But
really be
he's
comfortable
right.
letting it out. Yeah, of
Kevin's
course he's right. Yeah.
Why would you show
Yeah,
it?
what's the bit? What's the point?
But it kind of means more coming from an NBA
Yes,
All-Star.
yes.
'Cause he's had everything.
Of
The
course.
idea is he's gotten
It's
everything he wants
totally
for 20
inappropriate.
years.
It's totally inappropriate.
In a way, you would think if you didn't know how bizarrely emotional and Howard is, you would think this is part of his selling tactics.
and to increase,
Yeah, I did.
to
I was
increase
convinced.
to increase the tension in this moment, we went back and recorded a bunch of other people who are actually in the showroom to goad Kevin and goad Howard to really make it another.
Howie Bling
to
is his
another level.
Instagram handle, which is it's just perfect.
Look
I
at
love
the
when
phone here.
KG
Look at the
gets
phone here.
schwitzy.
We actually had the actual 2012 iOS here. Look at that shutter.
Yeah, Apple hooked it up there.
Give me the self-declare. I want the ring.
Howard, come the fuck
Collateral.
on.
I need to make sure.
I love
the
that. I
thing
love
is,
that
this
Kevin
makes-
lets him. No, I know.
This
I get it.
collateral makes sense.
Yeah.
What was anyone expecting? That's why Kevin's the most dignified character in the movie.
He respects that Howard wants that.
Oh, that Knicks ring
And that
right
says
there.
so
That's
much.
Yeah.
That 73 Knicks ring, Tom Riker's, which is the one that would make its way to auction. It's just speaks to Howard. I believe Howard was probably in the building. I think that his dad got him into the building, and he just speaks to an illness, which is Knicks fandom.
And also, it's just one of those examples of a very small, little practical detail pointing to something almost unreachably psychological. There's a history there.
Black Jewel, pal.
That's an improvised line from Lakeith, and he actually just wrapped up the Fred Hampton movie, so he was reading all about the Black Panthers in between days on this film, and it's just such a nuanced, beautiful, deep improvised line to throw back in Howard's face this concept of Black Jew power.
Does anyone know that his son is supposed to be taking a shit right there?
No one would know that. Yeah, that's our. He says Alberto. That's our dad right there in the red shirt, who used to work in the Diamond District.
There's.
Love this
Should
shot.
we
Yeah, it's
expose
one of
the
my
gold
favorite
screw?
shots.
Should we expose the gold screw?
Nah, it's one
I'll
of my
keep it
that's
set-
one
I'll
of my
keep it set.
favorite shots in the movie right there.
And these two are the best.
That cue too is really gorgeous.
Ronnie, we got Ronnie Greenberg and Marshall Greenberg.
So these guys are twins. I met them in the Diamond District. This scene was originally planned for a different cast. casting decision, and I wanted Marshall right there to play the part, to be in the film more than anything. He reminded me of the Ronnie Dangerfield, an inspiration on the film. I love Marshall and Ronnie right there. He actually went to film school with Darius, which is
This
I
scene,
mean, Marshall is incredible. They both have such impeccable timing.
and this scene for Sandler was the first time. It was like, I guess, the second day of shooting, and this was the first day he was going in and really acting opposite Jewelers. So he was super pumped up and nervous in a way to kind of really show that he was Howard. And that's where it was like I got very excited about the whole movie because he took it so personally and really wanted to perform and prove to them that he was a real person.
His voice.
Let's make it
You
quick.
know what's you know.
You know what? I just want to say
Hold on.
that
The
that line
texture of this movie comes from the faces and the sound, the cadence of the voices are so important.
Let's make it quick is so interesting because when we told Marshall, we said, Marshall, you got to go fast.
2012,
we got to make this speech. You got to really go like motor mouth it. He goes. So when he internalized that, he said, all right. Right before he gave it out, he goes, let's make it quick.
This is such a great portrait of a New York City block. We didn't shut it down, and just the people you see, like that guy right there, Ronnie likes to say, is an aged punk.
The lady who crosses the street.
Oh yeah.
I tried to get Ava and Cosmo into that, but Cosmo's not into it.
This scene was very hard to shoot because you don't shut the street down and you have a camera inside the car. That's Eric
on the opposite end of the sidewalk,
I
so
love
every
this
car
one.
is going in front of us. You know, you literally miss it. We
So
missed it 5 times.
Nino's, this guy right here, there was a sequence that took place in the Rockaway Casino Resorts World, and he was going to have a much bigger part. That's Nino right here, the owner of the restaurant. Great
We
story.
were so excited to find this location.
Oh,
So this is
I love the chef.
this
Don't get me
is.
started.
I texted Ronnie and I said, we need something
Just
for
a detail to
detail.
get us into the back of the restaurant. So yeah, I stole that from Kitchen Nightmares. the carrots and the Caesar salad.
Someone actually did that, Ronnie?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Put carrots in the
That's
Caesar salad.
embarrassing.
Yeah.
This is like Mike on the radio right now.
This is a portrait of Francesa's radio show. Right.
To me, this is the ultimate kind of purely expressive gambler and bookie scene because, no one really places bets in a kitchen.
Fell off a
anymore.
truck.
But it's incredible.
We try to pack in as many jokes as we can
I
in this
also-
movie,
I also
and
love-
I internally battle with Ronnie and Benny and Sibo about which jokes
fell
can
off a
stay.
truck.
I love
that
that
one gets laughed.
I also love that
Oh,
we
this
cut
is-
to
I'm
the
not
cook.
laughing.
Sibo and
Hold
I,
on.
yeah.
That we cut to the cook is the best.
This house, the woman who owns this house, was so protective of her Wi-Fi. I've never seen anything like it
Well,
before.
she
First of all,
also
was
knew.
no.
She understood the technology.
She's in her 80s, and she would sit there and she would say, "You're not gonna get the password."
She was like a troll who
She
would
knew because she said, if I give it to you, everybody's going to get it. And what's going to happen is I'm not going to be able to stream my movies. And I'm like, wow. All right.
We
smart.
didn't change too much in this house, but we added that massage chair because Howard needs a massage chair.
One thing that was
They're very science fiction.
One thing
massage
that was
chairs.
very new on this production for us was you had to get permission for every single piece of artwork in the background. So
What's incredible is the back. We shot this at noon. You know what I
know.
mean? If you look at the outside there, look how beautifully lit that exterior is.
here's Adina.
Yeah.
Just the
Adina's
best.
from Syosset, which was very close to where this scene takes place.
She said to
which
us,
is
what's the
Roslyn.
percentage of Long Island do you want? When she was coming up with the accent.
Hit that fucking shit.
And I also love that she knows what point it is in the game.
Okay, let me get this.
I mean, this is me understanding what people feel when I'm in this mode. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
And she surprised everybody with that yell. It was amazing.
So this bed here, this is obviously the whole room was constructed on that stage in this house. That bed was something we were obsessing over. We wanted. Howard believes that his kids can ascend through materialism, and he wants the world for his family. And if he can't personally give himself to them as much as he wants to anymore, he'll give them everything.
Yeah,
he
no,
can
just
get.
that shot shows how much he loves them.
you also, my kid just would not adjust to bedtime. So I spend so much of my life laying on the carpet just like that. And
It's something. It's such a strange feeling, to be in a dark room with them. It's beautiful.
That's Johnny Arambayev, who obviously his toy collection is like his gem collection. But Johnny right there is the son of a big bling jeweler named Izzy Aviani. And here, that a lot though, right, is so complicated because he's romanticizing the very thing that is going to be the demise.
We did have a full size basketball hoop
yeah.
in our room as kids with the chain link fence.
What's that, Ronzo?
not just in that moment, you can just see the seeds of a gambling addiction
for
to
sure.
come,
Yeah. But I love that a lot though, right?
Oh, wow. On the TV right there. It's a little bit of subtle foreshadowing. There's an art to finding the right piece of background material that is both relevant but not too on the nose.
Do people watch the director's commentary first, or do they watch it
No,
after? I'm
they watch
wondering.
it after. No one
Do you think
watches
some?
it
I'm
first.
wondering. Some people probably do.
It's a weird way to watch a movie, Benny.
I'm wondering.
Well, if you're doing that right now, there's something wrong with you.
Stop
Yeah.
and watch it normally.
Next, you'll be saying you want to wait until after the summer.
So this was from a writing standpoint, you have these scenes where you there's a Mohegan Sun, another foreshadow. But you have these you have these scenes in the movie that demand some sort of exposition, and you try to figure out a way to embed it through character.
Right. It's careful. You don't want to sort of hammer your exposition out through the characters' mouths. It's kind of an abuse of their being, and it's a struggle.
This was something we discussed with Sandler a lot beforehand, is figuring out
Yeah.
the different types of winning.
Because everybody knows one way of winning, and we wanted to show a new way.
This movie's a lot about
Yeah.
coming.
But we wanted to show a new way of like what it is that he feels that's different than another person who wins a bet.
I love this performance from Sandler.
This is Ferris.
On the voice, the cab driver.
The cab driver Ferris. He was in one of our short films.
He plays the in Acquaintance of Lonely
Yeah,
John.
yeah. He's the
He's in
guy.
Daddy Longlegs as well.
Oh,
He
that's
is,
right.
yes,
he is
he's
in
in-
Daddy Longlegs.
He plays the boat driver.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
Terry.
he owns the boat.
Yes, you're right. Terry.
There's something very nostalgic and emotional for me about the pieces that the NBA broadcast use to go to commercial.
Mm-hmm.
They find these great narrative, something that almost seems scripted. They find these breaks, and that right there, seeing the passion of Kevin Garnett, you can always lean on KG to give you a commercial break segue.
And this moment is something that really is only derived by using a real phone, because you could totally control when he gets the call and when she answers, but because we're connecting them in real time, you have this interesting pause. That's
The
created.
tension, it's
Yeah,
a lace
yeah,
tension. Like
yeah.
she's not answering, she's not home. Where is she?
Yeah.
I got held up.
Julia's voice acting is really difficult, and it insinuates a sort of realism that you can't put your finger on.
Mm-hmm.
There's a nuance to it, and she's so great here in this, which was obviously also recorded live.
This frustration here. Yeah. She's, what?
Can't wait to see you. I'm in an incredible.
And I love that Howard gets into incredible moods. Howard is a moody dude. I love Sandler.
But also that's something he gets to kind of gloat about in that moment.
Yes.
It's so sweet.
This is in the script. This is sort of the only room we have for sweetness. And, we came up with this idea to put him in the closet and do this sort of sexting
Pretty
thing.
late. Yeah. Right.
Just, nudity can be garish and blunt, and it's hard to communicate sweetness through it, and this was a way for us to get dirty without
But at the same time, we're using a trope almost in movies where usually you insinuate some sort of dread whenever someone's
When
hiding.
she's talking,
you
saying
only
nice
put
things about
someone
Howard there. Yeah.
into a surveillance position to discover something bad, right? And he doesn't, but it sort of plants a seed of expectation, and then that's,
Well, they both
that
have.
comes to fruition. Certainly, pretty much the next time you see her.
I love that they both instinctually know to celebrate with Smith and Walensky's.
This is probably the quietest moment in the movie.
Yeah. But of course we had to.
I saw
riddle-
somebody said like, I love that. Somebody said to me, I love that Howard has the noise on his phone.
It was
It
something
says
that
something
actually I battled with because
It's
it doesn't make any sense because you would not want to
But-
call any attention.
But there
to
is
the
a
fact
type
that
of person who does have the volume always on their phone.
But if you were hiding in a closet,
But it was a
you
spur of
would-
the moment thing,
No. If Howard was hiding in the closet, you would turn this thing off. It's on for expressive
We also want to.
purposes.
We also
yes.
want to show the texting and have that sound increase.
Well, it's just like that sound of technology
Yeah,
is such a
it's important.
Is such a hard grab at trying to make it real. You see phones now do these things where they vibrate a little bit when you touch them. It's just some sort of way of
Which is
of
an interesting
making
sound in its own right.
technology of a physical thing.
Actually, getting that sound of the finger on the screen was specific.
Yeah, we touch glass all
I
the
know,
time.
it's
Think
such a
about how
weird
weird that
thing.
is.
And I love. This is actually a very funny thing that Sandler. He just said it to Jackie, his wife. She always thought that this was shot on location. But Sandler's like, I was actually looking right at Benny when I was texting this stuff. So she's like, oh, I wish you had told me that.
Julie, that was I think the second take of her reacting like that, which is again not easy to do. But I just love seeing those windows in the background,
Yeah.
knowing that we're in a city, and that's this touching. I find this to be really touching, and then you remind everybody that we're all just these little narratives.
And actually, to find a building where we had access to the building, there's so many logistical things that we'll work our way into.
Yeah, I know.
What? You told me that already.
And you know what I love about this? Howard fucked last night, and you can see it and feel it. He looks like a guy who had sex last night.
A little glow.
Yeah, you know what I'm
glow.
saying? Like he has maybe he woke up, they had sex again in the morning. He looks a little.
He's feeling he lost 3 pounds.
Look at that smile. I had sex last night. 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 Hey,
And about Howard Ratner and his partner.
this was we had a different location that was actually much more tied to the real Christie's. And we had to change last second, but this is a very cool location because it has 2 entry points, north and south. And Haley, who's playing the receptionist, for me, that's my own personal nod to King of Comedy because she reminds me of Sandra Bernhardt. And obviously Rupert has the great interactions with the receptionist that Howard's just screaming fuck in a
That
lobby.
he's very nice and cordial when he's in front of her, but he thinks as soon as he walks away, he can
Mitchell
do that.
and Stewart here. So actually, that's Mitchell. Mitch, actually, yesterday someone asked us to sign something, and they said, I'm so happy you put Mitch in the film. He would normally be here. I said, Mitch would not normally. Mitchell right there is a big autograph collector.
The funny
Paul
thing-
McCartney
so-
has broken his eardrum. Rod Stewart probably has nightmares about him.
So Mitchell,
That cast, he was like, you really want me to put the cast on? How'd I break it? I said, you come up with that, Mitchell. You figure out how you broke it.
Mitchell was in a short film of ours a long time ago, and when he came to do, because we had to do a rehearsal, we had to put him on camera to prove that he could do it again. And when we had him there, he brought his brother to the audition, and he said, maybe my brother can get a job too. And we're like, of course.
Stewart actually, his brother recorded a full album of music for the movie
It's pretty good.
with lyrics.
with lyrics. Yeah.
And
I
song titles.
love these two just because I love the hierarchy that it creates in
Yes.
the movie. The scale, the relationship between a Mitchell and a
The two
and an
types of
Arno.
heavies, yeah. You have Mitchell and his brother, and you have Keith and Tommy,
Lakeith does something really interesting before he got into the car, where he squeezes his trap on his shoulder, which is his way of letting him know how stressful this life is. But I love Lakeith because he's so smooth, yet in control, yet also stressed out with his own problems.
also that he just doesn't turn the music down all the way while they're having this conversation.
Then we're going to practice.
I mean, this was interesting because if you jump into Lakeith's character here, and Damani's character, the Damani character, he's in a spot right now because when you handle big superstars, you don't know how far you want to push it. You don't know. You have a limited amount of asks because because the ego is such a hard thing to manage, and he doesn't know what he's gonna do here. He's gonna show up with a jeweler and tell him, "Give me this thing back that means a lot to you."
The scene we wrote on the way to the location.
Yeah, on the way to Mohegan Sun, yeah, because Rajon Rondo was supposed to be in the scene, and it
missed his
centered
flight.
around him, and he fell out last second. But this is one of the scenes I'm
That's
most
why
proud
Howard
of.
says, I kind of hope Rondo's in there, you know.
But
We did too.
the New York, the Jews and basketball thing is a deep. It's you look up the history of Jews in basketball. There's articles and they're all fascinating. I'm not gonna get into it now.
Sick.
Basketball City. Love this place.
There's certain
So
phrases
only
that just
Howard.
stick out.
Just for a second, imagine you're a jeweler. You go to an NBA practice facility, and you run onto the court and take a layup. I mean, that is Howard's sin. Is he can't get out of his own way. He's so happy. His mood dictates everything in his life, and because he did that, he's now getting boned in the locker room.
Well, because Damani's got no plan there. You know, Damani, what is he going to do?
Damani was so
Yeah.
grateful that Howard can't get
Yeah.
out of his own way.
What was he gonna do if they
Ralim
both
right
showed
there
up?
on the left, who he's talking to, she was the warden of Manhattan Detention Center in Rikers Island for many, many years. We've put her in a handful of things. She's a sweet woman.
We met her during research for Good Time.
That's right.
She helped us a lot. Yeah.
I love people pausing to see the other text that he sent.
I call this the head turning scene.
Adina's so great in this.
And I just love this. You know, I grew up on the North Shore of Long Island in this exact culture. And
Your setting.
Just the way Jews talk about vacations, the way other people talk about the weather.
And it's such a status symbol, you know, like, where'd you go? Oh, wow.
And in particular, Karen, who's playing the other mother there, who's you'll see her husband Aaron, we grew up with
Yes,
him.
he's one of
he actually scaled a 4-story building when he forgot his passport and broke the
And
window.
he's
and
in
snuck
Daddy
in.
Longlegs too.
He's great in Daddy Longlegs. No music. I'm allergic to music. But just that couple right there, you know, you can give setting is something that often people think is tied to shots of landmarks and locations, but I believe setting is tied to characters and people, and they are. They tell you where you are.
And there's
in the world right now.
something that Aaron does in this scene which is so amazing. They're having this whole conversation, and then he realizes that Howard has just started paying attention, and he gives him that little 2-word summary. No vacation?
Yeah,
You know, he
but
brings
it's
him up
on
to
the
speed.
trapeze is the
Yeah.
line that,
Yes.
that sticks out. I mean, Jews on
course.
trapeze.
Yeah,
And Karen's line that she
Absurd.
says, the morons in Cancun, being prideful
it's
to
just
be
so-
because who
so-
doesn't want to be a moron
But
on
it's not even
vacation?
that. She's just so centered.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. She
she's-
is so centered. I know. I
That's
wish I
her.
could be like
That's her. Like, hey, yeah. I guess that's what we'll do.
So this sequence obviously is a big narrative turn because everything is technically going right except for the hiccup with the opal. He hit his big bet, and you know, it's pretty scary to see people show up at your kids' play.
And Tommy actually couldn't run. He had hurt his legs, so we had to find another
So-
heavy, which was actually interesting because it's that kind of stuff that makes you add to the interesting things to
So
the script and the movie.
Louis, on the right, you'll see Louis on the right. We wanted to put him in Good Time, but he had to go away for a little bit, and he couldn't. And the bite. Remember, he's like, "You can actually bite me. Let's
Oh,
put
and
some
he
padding."
really
and he
Sandler
got,
bit
it
him.
hurt.
I love, even though Howard is running here, I think of this as one of his tougher, more courageous moments. And
Oh,
that
yeah.
he stood up to them.
he
course
pushed him.
he did,
That was
yeah.
important
And
for
those guys are
Sandler.
scary.
Sandler wanted that. He's like, I don't want to just get pushed around all the time.
I mean, that's embarrassing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this, when Bogosian saw this, you'll see Eric, he plays Arno, when he saw Howard run out and do all of these stunts in loafers, you know, on wet grass, he's just like, this is dedication right here.
Embracing slow motion here is nice.
Yeah.
I
It's
love,
a moment
I love
that you
meeting
feel
a
in real
character
life, but you
without
don't
his
actually-
voice. And that his gesture with the hand, turn it around.
Without being able to hear him, you know,
Just-
these are
just
things
seeing
that
a
you...
menacing person muted is scarier.
Those are things that you'll see in real life, and it's like, how do you actually translate that?
I remember the crew was kind of all looking at us because this was a big crew, and they were like, "This is our first like action sequence."
Yeah,
and they were
we did it in one take. We got it all down, because we didn't
I think
really.
they were all secretly being like, "Let's see how they."
Oh yeah, let's see how this works. Like the blocking was really open, and they were trying to figure it out. It's like when it happened in the first take, everybody was like, "Oh wow, that's pretty special."
We broke this up. I think a week and a half between that scene and this scene.
We struggled a lot with the writing of this scene.
Yeah, it had a lot of different iterations. I think the SUV, when we arrived on Arno sitting in the front seat, that was big for us.
Also, the fact that it's a
fucking
cab
"You bit me" is big too, because it's one of the first lines that insinuates that A, Arno isn't Jewish, and B, that there's a whole perception of Jews out there.
This is one of Arno's cabs. That was another thing. That's kind of
the
humanized
backstory, yeah. So the gentleman in the back, Tommy, Keith, and Louie, this is their first film, all of them, and we wanted. This obviously is a scene with a lot of exposition in it as well, and
which is
Uh,
why it was a struggle to write.
Yeah, and Eric, when we were shooting this scene, because we encouraged Keith, Tommy, and Louie to to improvise chaos in between their lines, and it created a kind of cacophony of noise that Eric had a hard time finding his way in for his own lines, which were very, very important for the movie and for him. So early on, one of the early takes, Eric smashed the dashboard and said, "I don't know about any of you, but I got lines I fucking gotta say, so you gotta give me my room." And I had to go and talk to Eric and explain to him that his character is a lot about posturing. He's in a situation that he doesn't really control, and this is the first hint at that. And if he can't get a line in, he should assert himself and feel free to add improvised lines like "shut the fuck up," to let everyone know who's in charge.
And that's literally it's for an editing point of view too. You need him to get everybody to be quiet to say those lines. And it's funny because if you look at Louis in the corner, his cue to punch Howard was so specific. He's literally sitting there waiting to hear one word, and that's why you see it kind of makes him laser focus on Howard.
I like to think in this scene Tommy was using Howard as a human stress ball.
Yeah, Sandler was covered in bruises after this scene.
Because look, they are manhandling him, and and look, he is actually getting choked right here.
Right. There.
That's actually Sandler not being
trying
able to breathe.
pull the arms off, and they didn't know that was was real.
But there was a stunt coordinator was in the front looking back, and he called it off right after that. But man,
yeah, that's why this.
And this scene was total chaos. Josh and I are in the trunk.
I pissed my pants here, actually, right now. I released 1 second of urine.
Because watch this right here. Sandler just gets demolished. He gets covered by people, and God, it was so physical.
This was a stressful day.
Yeah.
But everyone was so. Eric is so great.
And that
the
look in his eyes in this whole scene was so important because he doesn't know. Is this where he wanted this to go?
It's just the idea of a guy who's making a decision that he knows he has to make, but not knowing the reality of it, how it's going to play out. And Scott Rudin wanted us to take that line out. We kept it in, but I think he liked it in the end. Oh.
That fucker rotten. Fuck you!
Louis adds so much to this movie. His face.
I have to pee. Can
We're gonna pause it for a second?
Or do you want to keep going?
Pause it.
Okay.
Take a break.
Alright, you fuck. Come on, guys. Don't look. Stop, Josh.
Dana.
I'm not looking.
He's just making a sound. He's not looking.
Benny, can you finish? Benny. We're going to keep going, right?
I'm good.
All right.
Love this running style.
Yeah, we talked about this with Adina. We with the heels. She says, "How much do you want the heels to impede my running?"
I call it against nature.
Yeah, we in the screenwriting phase of this, we went back and forth about.
I was very insistent, no dialogue.
Yeah, we went back and forth
what
about
could she say?
Huge interaction here, or completely quiet, and we thought that Adina's character, it says so much more that she has nothing to say here than.
She clocks it.
I mean, like, which just so shows you that this is actually not the worst that she's seen of Howard before.
What could you possibly be looking for in the forest?
Oh boy.
Oh yeah.
You know, all through the production, we were, we could not afford an actual sort of known play. We were going to do the Addams Family musical at one point. So then, while these guys were shooting, it sort of fell on me to look at public domain properties, and I ended up reading 300 pages worth of Grimm fairy tales, and then just cobbling one together. At the same time, I'd been working on this book with Robert Crumb, the cartoonist, and he had lent me this book about the history of anti-Semitism. So I was deeply entrenched in reading about Jews in the Middle Ages in Europe and the genesis of this idea of the gold obsession in Jews. So here we go. We land on this, I guess, very, trenchant image of a man looking at his daughter puking out gold coins.
And it's supposed
And
to
yet
be a
he's
gift.
And he loves it. It cuts straight through all the tensions in his life. I mean, it hits him.
Hits him. Yeah. It's a deep moment.
Something very nice about seeing Howard have showered in his home.
Look at that muscle.
The call you pick up when you know it's me, you don't. What was that all about?
This location, we love locations with mirrors. Our production team does not, because it makes it very difficult to shoot in.
The challenges make it better.
But
And then
I loved-
when we saw this closet on location, it was a eye-opening.
I love
sound.
cedar closets. I love the smell of cedar closets.
And the sound quality of this place was amazing.
Yeah, we actually cut out Sandler's in the character development. I went to Barney's and I went to the cologne department, and I asked them. I told them I was buying a cologne for my uncle, and they said, "Well, what's he like?" And it was a great exercise for me. I had to kind of describe Howard, the garishness. I said, "He's the type of guy. If he was in this room right now, you would certainly know that." And they started to give me, show me a lot of sense, and we ended up picking one, and we cut it from the scene. But he is applying tons of cologne.
The thing I love about that previous scene is that amidst all the tensions in his life and the text, there's a portion of real estate in his brain that is just trying to determine what shirt he's going to wear.
So the barbecue chicken line is actually it's an interesting history to it.
Yeah, we'd reached a sort of roadblock in terms of getting the project greenlit and properly budgeted, and so we went into a meeting with Eli Bush and Scott Rudin, and there was a lot of tension. I would say it was the only real meeting that was,
Laced with tension.
laced with dread and tension, and Josh decided to cut the tension by saying, "Oh, is that barbecue chicken?"
Yeah.
And the response he got was, "It's just chicken." So yeah, we put that in the script.
Yeah. Small talk sometimes is so naked and ugly. And the trunk scenario, it's nice to see Howard actually try to confront his problems with his wife. Noah here, she was fantastic, and the audition process for that character was a funny one. The script that we gave all the actresses was to perform the school play for a school casting director, and they were supposed to be, this school casting director was supposed to cut them off, played by our real casting director, Jennifer Venditti, and they were supposed to be uncomfortable about that and leave the room and then come back into the room and ask if they could charge if anyone had a charger, because they weren't expecting to be so short. And it's a very nuanced, tough thing to pull off, and Noah did it so, her performance was so embarrassed and so realistic that it played like, I can't imagine what someone, if they were watching just the audition process, if they thought there was some sort of mistake.
Well, the whole point is, you see them performing, and then you see them when they're literally not acting.
She plays a Jap very, very well.
And just to add, this scene didn't exist until we did a table read with Adam, and he really felt like it was missing. That there wasn't a moment of confrontation between him and his daughter, and I think it's a testament just to the faith we all have in one another, because really on the page, it's hard to see that scene. Nothing is said.
Yeah.
Nothing is said.
Yeah, Adam was always keen to point out the things that the script needed.
He's also he was very aware of what an audience would need for Howard, you know.
Shooting at One Oak, obviously with all these extras and sparklers and
oddly enough, you need the fire department for sparklers.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of, but there is the scenes that we wrote originally were longer and very ambitious for a 2-day shoot in a nightclub, and
we did a couple of versions.
We did the first part of the first day, and we realized we were never going to make our day. We didn't have enough extras that we actually needed to properly pull it off.
And then in lunch.
And during lunch, we rewrote the scene.
And then rewrote and re-scripted everything.
Reshot listed. And everyone came back from lunch, and we were handing out new script pages. And I think
new script, new shot, and schedule for that time.
And I think that was when the crew really felt. I think it was inspiring.
Because they were like, "Oh, you can do that." Because normally it feels so cemented in place.
The weekend here had a lot of fun tapping back into his 2012 self, his 2012 self.
And this was everybody was so excited because they got so many live performances by Abel here.
Orange sweatshirt here we changed. It was a audible in the wardrobe changed. Trinidad James, another great 2012 reference. But when an extra had that sweatshirt on,
we switched it.
And when they came in, there was some weird makeup thing happening with Sandler in the black light. And we saw what the orange sweatshirt was doing on this extra. It was like a light bulb illuminating anyone who went near it. And it was fantastic. So we ended up swapping it onto Lakeith. And it just has a very incredible effect.
I love Lakeith's attitude here.
Right, and to be clear, something about that orange glow covered up and masked the makeup issues we were having.
Yeah.
Lakeith's attitude here is just so entitled. I love it. Just like he could show up and have a good time. And what is Howard doing interrupting him?
But Darius spent a day pre-lighting this black light, which is incredible to think that the weekend in 2012 would demand the club to do this as well. Because that was really him. He was a punk back then, and he also performed this track many, many, many times live. Our cousins are back there.
The higher that I climb, the harder I'ma try. These pussy ass niggas tryna hold on to their grits.
Moment right here where you let them, when you look back, we still fighting? Yeah, we're still fighting.
There was something so incredible about when you were editing this that it totally lined up with the song. You know, it was total kismet. It was beautiful.
Temporally.
Yeah, the song length was exactly as long as it was.
This is a nice moment here where he's seen
we had
his
no
girlfriend.
Extra.
His girlfriend.
With which to elongate the scene.
His girlfriend here this is what it's like to see true innate greatness. A person who can just open their mouth and sing like this versus having to move the world around to get greatness. The scene was longer and the script was definitely more provocative. Abel was pushing us to use it. It went farther. But Julia here, it's funny. When we showed the film down in Atlanta, and after the screening, I saw a bunch of people hanging out in a parking lot talking about the film casually, and I was like, I'm very curious. I'm gonna go listen to what they're saying, and they were having a debate about the morality of that scene or the personal moralities, that what if they would condone their girlfriend doing what Julia does in the bathroom there with The Weeknd, and half the group was saying she was doing it for the cause, she was doing it for Howie, she was doing it for the business, and then the other half were like, once she touches the dick, it's game's over. Like there's no more discussion, and I joined in, and they're like, well, who are you? And I was like, well, I was one of the writers and directors of this movie. And then they loved it, and it was just cool to see people anonymously talking about the movie and taking a side there. That's flawless, right there. Greg Una, who's a jeweler who was very receptive to us early on in our research going back to 2011, taking us in when he used to go by Mr. Flawless.
It took him a little bit. He was so. To be in this was a lot because everybody's talking. There's all this.
But he's been at One Oak many times, so this was an easy, I think.
And this little look he gives right here.
But to go back to the bathroom, that the ambiguity is what was the key into that for us,
Yes.
right? You needed to fall 50-50 on it.
And then again, Sandler not stepping down. And this, both of them, no stuntmen right there. What did Abel say? He's like, oh, me and Bob Barker have something in common. I love it.
Except I don't know who the winner is here of this fight.
No, it's a terrible fight.
Yeah.
It's a
Ronnie,
terrible
I think it's a
fight.
great fight. It's realistic.
Yeah, but I'm
Yes.
saying there's
Club fights
very
are
little
messy.
happens,
You're
right.
slipping on a wet
It's
floor.
messy. It's short.
Ronnie, we've been in so many club fights together.
I don't know. The winner isn't
They're all
Howard. Howard is
terrible.
not the winner there. I guess he did stand up for himself, but he gets dragged out.
I love this here.
He
Howard
knows every
line.
DJ in this town.
That's such a Howard. That's actually like a quiet reference to Al Goldstein here, who would say something like that.
Fuck all you.
I know every DJ in this town. Fuck all you losers.
Oh man.
Yeah, everyone's complicit. Everyone on that line.
Yeah.
Just for looking.
This was lighting this street and shooting this. The first take we did, we put the camera pretty far away, about a block away, and shot it with long lens.
Oh boy, we were one of those scenes we were so apprehensive going into because it demanded so much performance-wise, and it was in a way so easy because they were
Julia
so
brought
on
it.
point.
Yeah, and it's the type
So
of thing
did
that you
Sandler.
really don't know if it's going to work until they're there doing it.
I mean, I've been in this situation before.
But-
the dramatic.
I think
Almost,
everybody's been in this.
Yeah.
but they both get in it so deeply that they were just kind of.
That's what's great about living in a city is your private interactions are really your own until someone points out that they're not your own.
Yeah.
You're just the attraction of the moment, and actually you can see right there on the left of the frame.
Because this was wide open too. There's a
This
guy on a
right
bike
here. That guy is a real guy, just trying to mind his own business. Trying to ignore the drama in front of him. Julia wanted to walk back intuitively.
Yeah, we just rolled with it,
yeah,
we couldn't
she-
ignore it.
Did this line that we had. She's incredible here. Her little smile right there kills me because it says so much about her character. Just keep going. And the score here, Daniel's reinterpretation of a Haydn Symphony Number 88, which at one point was in the temp track. She's so special. This is the moment when you fall in love with Julia. Character, yeah. And this walk that we developed with him is important. I mean, look at that. You can see this entire night on him.
And he's still looking at the phone.
And we said, you have the phone out just as a distraction. You have no interest in it. It's just there to let you know that there's other stuff to pay attention
But
to.
Sandler's
at all
thinking about
times.
everything. The little limp that Howard has here. He's always aware of these little idiosyncrasies of his character.
Back to his spaceship, which is what I referred to this office at
And
night.
at this point, Howard's got nowhere to go.
There's something about offices at night that they do have a kind of a tangential reality. Our
little things like that. You're at the
right.
worst point, right, and you still plug your phone into your computer right before you go to bed.
I remember having to sleep in our office during some rough romantic times, and I used to keep a pillow in a filing cabinet. And seeing it through the window here is added lonely effect, which we actually did in Daddy Longlegs.
Mm-hmm.
First time we did that. I love the basketballs on his sofa. Can't get out of it. Destroyed that Rolex for this scene. Oh, you can hear Tilda Swinton's little audio cameo.
Turn that down.
Let me explain something to you, Mr. Ratner. Your opal is one of 75 items I have to open for this. All of them
Listen,
are yours, has been cleaned,
I'm
catalogued,
doing some
and appraised.
appraisals.
I remember this scene with Sandler. We kind of would just roll through all of these phone calls that were happening, and he had to be on point with each different person. He's this way with Anne. He's this way with somebody who he's trying to get information from, and then he's this way with Julia.
Well, have you ever? I'm sure if anyone has ever seen a documentary or a period movie where you see a telephone operator who has to plug in all the patches, that is Howard's life, emotionally and thematically, and this is really the closest you get to the life of Howard, right?
And just really,
he's not sure if he wants to emotionally invest right now. Fuck it. Speakerphone. She gets the speakerphone.
So that he can relax while he's getting on that phone.
Well, he's got to perform.
Yeah.
Fucking go home with you acting that way.
This scene was inspired by Nick Broomfield documentary, which was a character in the film named Yvonne Naj, who is a kind of a nefarious producer in Hollywood, also involved in some sort of escort service. And but there's a great scene towards the end where Yvonne wants to prove to Nick Broomfield that he and Heidi Fleiss everything's fine between them, so he calls her on speaker.
Right. And there's just this very oleaginous, kind of unctuous, sarcasm that's just barely masking the hostility.
What's up, cutie?
It's incredible that the character lives as such a pastiche.
Yeah.
That's an influence, and Todd is an influence,
And Al Goldstein and Rodney
Goldstein and
Dangerfield,
Howard Ratner. I mean, so many people.
This is
But he
Natasha
pulls
Lyonne
them
here,
all
sorry.
together. It's one guy.
Natasha's great here. Again, it's
She doesn't give
And
a
again,
fuck about
having
Howard.
having these security cameras be alive and real, what it does.
I'll say this sequence right here is kind of a paradigm example of the kind of pathological approach that we take to screenwriting, where really, the purpose of a scene like this, if you look at it structurally, if you look at the script like a 2D blueprint, is to really introduce into the audience's mind that somebody can get trapped inside this vestibule. So we're setting up a kind of Rube Goldberg, mechanics that certainly come into play in the climax of the film. And we're just so afraid of narrative exposition in a sense and exposing it. We think it kind of smells bad, so we're just constantly trying to cover up those things with so many details and so much chaos so that you don't perceive its purpose.
and luckily we have a world that warrants the chaos. And
I remember when we were watching this, and after editing it, it was like, is it okay to have a moment this stressful for no reason, really? Just out of nowhere, it just throws itself on Howard. And yeah, to shoot this was so crazy that literally we had our shot list. It was something like 65 shots, and our solution was, we'll do it in one.
Right.
And we did. And
we ended up, of course, cutting.
Of course, yeah. Then it's like, okay, let's get all the stuff to take it to another level. But it does connect all the spaces in an interesting way.
But all that tension and anxiety embedded in the scene, there's a cathexis that happens when that chisel falls down onto the floor.
You put so much in it.
45 minutes later, we were like, oh, okay.
This is also the point, just in making this, or maybe it was the first time in the edit, I don't know, the whole movie, the cacophony of this scene became music to me. And it started to...
Yeah, there's buzzes. There's so many sounds that are going on.
I remember after we finished the scene, Darius was like, okay, so we got it. We did it in one take. I said, oh, no. We have 40 inserts, that we want to do.
And there's something...
There's
wait, I want to just say, there's something about cutting to Howard behind the glass, back and forth, and it feels like it's totally just, this is how it happened, How can you possibly cut to Howard behind the glass without seeing a camera? And there's something subconsciously that does to a viewer.
The Sean in the background of the bodyguard, it was very important to me to define his character in a very succinct way. And I just thought, giving him one line, I'm claustrophobic, does so much because you really feel...
Yeah, he was actually.
He was feel him.
We told him that he was afraid of being in that space.
He said, I said,
yeah,
you're
but then he said it.
claustrophobic,
He
yeah.
said it in the. He said it there, which was really funny.
Just love how tall Kevin is. All these shots, kind of.
We did design the showroom to be smaller at this moment, at this part in the middle, to make it more exaggerated.
Yeah, the height of the showroom was defined by Kevin's height. I love seeing basketball players duck to enter spaces. Shot right here of Damani was very important.
It's where it's with you. Every once in a while, the movie will take the point of view of another character. I love that Kevin says that. Be better than this, Howard.
The tag on Howard's shirt was also a funny decision with Miyako Bellizzi, our costume designer. That his life is so chaotic that he just grabs a shirt that he bought off those bootleggers, those boosters, just threw it on without checking to see if the tag is still on.
And this was a moment where this was hard to get at on the
line
set.
right there.
You know, we really had to get them. We had to take it to another level with them. We had to like blow it up and just get them excited.
That line there, it's a fucking rock dummy. It's such a sobering moment because it reminds you that it's just matter.
And yeah, I just remember it's like you just kind of have to throw it to the wind and say like this will work later. You know, when it all gets back into the edit. Because their performances are so alive.
I love the desperation on Damani's character. The boxes are mad expensive.
Yeah, there's kind of a sadness there.
Ronnie's voice cameo here.
Yeah, these guys wanted me to play the doctor in the opening as well, but I knew I couldn't carry that weight.
But I love you in this scene.
Oh,
it's just
choosing
routine.
colon cancer.
It's just routine.
I'm telling you, man, this one meeting I had with after this colonoscopy just was very, very informative.
You said it's good?
Yeah, I said you're all
good, thank you.
I love when I showed Dad the movie for the first time, Benny. He was leaning forward to hear the dialogue as before we mixed the film, to hear if the colonoscopy is clean. It was very important.
It's the only
plot
good
point.
news he gets, but it doesn't matter. You know, God's is giving him a pass. He doesn't care. You know, here I'd been watching the Ten Commandments with my daughter one Passover, and you know that moment where the Euphrates turns to blood, and yeah, sure enough.
But
you get the Gatorade
What's
and the
funny
fish.
is
that was
the
so
ASPCA
insane
was
to
not
get
allowing us to turn it red. It had to be blue.
Well, because the red would stress the fish out, and when we finally got them to do the red, they said you can only have the fish in there for 15 minutes. And of course, the way we shoot the scene, you might not even see the Gatorade go in, you know, and make that happen. You just gotta trust that it'll all work out.
This scene here is an embarrassing moment. It stems from an embarrassing moment in my life. It's just the idea that the smoothie is such a loud detail, and it's true. If you're in the middle of it, just speaks to the lightness of which she's taking this drama. You only get a smoothie if you're in a good mood. No one gets a smoothie
don't get a
if you're feeling.
if you're rushing somewhere.
Yeah, because it takes time to make.
Yeah,
but beyond that,
Yeah.
a smoothie is a good mood drink. You know what I mean?
I agree.
But it is a representation of a certain amount of time that you had to wait for that thing to happen.
Of course, we call the Q smoothie here too. I love being
These
in an
elevators.
elevator. You're trapped with someone.
Yeah.
That carrying case. When I first saw them in the Diamond District, they were invented for dental instruments.
It was
or
Evan
implants.
Yerman, remember? He showed us a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, for a while we were
There
trying
we go.
There's Ratso.
Again, welcome back.
Great line from Sandler that he improvised. He abandoned our own line. That's the reason why you cast a comedian.
And like all of these passing dialogue lines that you're getting, we really go back to the district and just record people on the street getting all of that.
The electric Seder.
And we had two different locations in mind for this. And it's such a character trait to choose the right one, you know, to be in this kind of glass electric place is a totally different place than the other one we had in mind. But it dictates who the character is, and then you go back and
By the way,
remake
right
it alive
here,
again.
when he clicks on this and it sent that right there, cannot verify identity details. There was the next thing that popped up was update your service, you update your program, and our props department were freaking out because if we updated, we would have lost the iOS there.
But we didn't stop it. We let him go.
in the writing here, this is such an obviously it's a big turn in the film when you realize how close he is with this man and the predicament that they're in.
But even that, just to like, when do you show Arno was a really big discussion that
in
we
the
were
edit,
having.
in the edit. Judd has such a maternal vibe, so it was was great to. I mean, this might as well be King of the Gypsies.
I remember there was somebody I saw this somewhere. The dipping of the celery is a very specific thing, and somebody like, that's not a tradition, and then somebody else yelled. There was a whole conversation in the
Really?
theater about which type of Jew has the celery dip.
It's ridiculous.
And it was-
I mean, Pete, there is an argument that the drops of wine that represent blood on the plate is Mordecai, who worked on our film, who comes from a Hasidic community.
That was my son Murray's cry right there.
He told us that was somehow a Manischewitz PR manipulation of the holiday.
But then it's not.
I don't think that's true.
I looked it up. It's not true.
But coming from Mordecai, it made sense.
By your little link, I meant when I said I want.
So it's funny here. So in the script we wrote that, also a la the smoothie, to show how fleeting this argument really is. He's checking his weight here, but the funny thing is with Sandler in the middle of the scene, we had a real scale there. He had this monologue, and he stood on the scale, and he hadn't stood on a scale in a while. And the second he stood on that scale, and he saw that he was over 200, it threw him off, and had a long pause in the take.
Yeah, you're not so tough without your friends around, are you?
I love Howard stands up for himself all the time like this.
Oh, you love this roster? I love it. But Baron Davis is done.
There's piles. I talked with set decorator. I said, Gooey, Judd's character, he's a pile guy. His business is all in paper and it's all over the place.
And you learn so much
He's a real
seeing
estate
these
guy.
locations. What the person's like who actually lives there.
I love this.
You know what he says to me? He comes over and he says, "Happy holidays." It's like it's Christmas. It's like having an intruder in your own home.
But Sandler, that Ratner sticks up for Arno in this moment.
Yeah. He can see everybody's point of view. I love it.
There's some real deep cut Knicks talk going on in the
Oh, yeah.
background that is truly, those two are
Arno's got the cigarette.
mega fans.
Yeah.
Arno's got the cigarette.
Yeah, Nick fandom is a sickness.
It's a disease.
It's a
yeah.
disease, and this scene is littered with Easter eggs to that. It's tough to find, in the writing of the movie is one thing, but then when you actually have to implement this concept of using real games within your fictional world, having Kevin have a great game followed by a bad game, ending with a great game is not easy, and we were lucky to find the series against the Sixers in 2012, where he had a bad game without the opal.
When you look in context, KG looks like he doesn't have the opal right there. I mean, it looks like he's acting for the movie.
I know. I love the idea of
with Eric here. It was amazing because he didn't have any lines, so he really had to use his eyes in this scene, and that was I remember he was excited about that.
Love that line.
Rich is rich.
Rich is rich.
I can't believe that we're the first film to include the Offie Coleman. That I know of, at least. I love that Howard told his son where the Offie Coleman was.
It's also so weird because it is just such a thing that always happens in your life.
But
and
what's
you
interesting
can't imagine
is
that it wasn't seen
people
before.
who don't know what Offie Coleman is. What is that?
I know.
No one
But
knows
that's what I'm
there's
saying.
matzah
It's so
in there.
weird to me that people don't know what that is. Even though
And sometimes I wonder if we should have shown the prize of finding the Offie Coleman.
No, because I think it's
this
like synonymous with an Easter egg.
We
hunt.
should
It's
have,
close
but
enough,
it
I
wouldn't.
guess.
There wouldn't have been room in the edit for it.
So yeah, this is every Passover my mother would put on her bat mitzvah dress. That's true. It's a true part
to
of my
prove
family.
to everyone she can
And
still fit in it.
I love that you didn't tell her until she saw the film.
That's right.
You didn't.
What did she say, Ronnie?
That's what
Lots
she
of
said.
things.
She said, "Oh God."
Oh God. This scene is very, very, very special to me. A lot of care was put into both the writing and the cutting, and it's something like this from editing standpoint is just so in my wheelhouse. It's just like a little two people in a quiet space, and it's like an existential medieval duel. I love having control of the rhythm.
And I loved placing that painting behind her. The naked back turned to him.
She's so amazing. She's so amazing in the scene.
This is the scene that you kind of earmark in the schedule, and you kind of look at it as the performers do and the crew does.
Kind of like the fight outside.
Because it has so much meaning, and you know that it will be such a landmark for the audience as well. So you talk. That's probably the scene I talk to Dina about the most. And a lot of personal things that we both discussed to get her here. And first take, she just really wowed the entire crew.
In this moment where he says, "Look in my face," and you see his dopey face, this is a great example of one of the great benefits of working with a star and someone who's accumulated so many years of good faith or a deep relationship with an audience over decades.
And their relationship with his face.
With his face, and you get to take that energy and use it, turn it back inward into the movie.
This scene is probably the scene we personally all quote the most to each other.
Sandler's, there's something so confident but also vulnerable about his performance. Say yes, what?
Say yes, that. What is it's
just like trying to telegraph to her what it's unbelievable.
And if I had my way, I would never see you again.
It's because you're mad.
You can punch me if you want. I love that in Howard's mind, he thinks that the way to
Adina
deal
actually
with
goes
any,
for it. Yeah. Adina goes for it there.
And this is the tidal wave of Yenta right there.
Yeah. Just this roiling mass of Jewish women.
And then Sahar right there. I hate the fact that she can't fit into hers. It's real sisterly right there.
And Adina's excuse is really awesome.
And this, you can't make a Long Island Jewish movie without including Billy Joel. Actually, 106.7 right there is a reference to Daniel Lopatin's musical act name, 106 Tricks Point Never, which can't derive from 106.7 in Boston. 101.7 or something.
You can have it.
Look at the way you're playing. Go right.
Why are you taking Lex?
Just developing the whole vibe in this car post Seder.
It's her house. She can have it.
It's right there.
Go left. Go left.
And just the ways of which you leave the city. You know, it speaks. I know with our dad, he always wanted to take the 59th Street Bridge because it's free.
You're a Triborough guy.
Yeah, I love the Triborough.
Especially when you were living in Harlem.
Yeah, I love
like the tunnel.
But The Stranger was ended up being a very inspired choice.
I remember with Darius here, we said, okay, we're going to set up the dolly all the way down the street, and we're going to do it on the 425 millimeter zoom. And he looked at us like we were insane, but he was so excited.
Ralph?
Ralph is amazing. He's a big horse bettor. Yeah. And
we actually saw him on New York Nico's.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's great. He just adds so much. Just Mr. Ratner. I love it.
I actually thought I thought it was a continuity error that he was back there, but he actually ran so fast.
I know.
He wants to do his job so well.
I love shooting in this hallway. So John Amos, he asked me, he's like, so talk to me about the scene. Tell me about my character. I said, well, this is the first actual interaction that you get to have with a person who's been just a nuisance to you for 12 years. The sounds that come out of the apartment. And he said, so I hate this man. I said, yeah. So his first take, he interpreted that direction as to be very, very sad. And he did a take that was, remember how sad he was?
Yeah.
Very long pause. But the beautiful part here is that the son says, what a fucking dick. But Howard, he won't let that live. He says, nah, stop it. He's a legend, which is the beauty of Howard.
There's something just in that little moment, just trying to imagine the life that's going on behind these doors. It's actually me with
this
him.
This guy, Connor Coyne is an incredible prank caller. Incredible. He's very.
But again, that moment when Howard looks at the door, it's again one of those things that you feel when in life, where you kind of do a double take and see something, but to try and figure out how to show that is.
This song choice here, first of all, so awesome that Julia's punk thing to do is just leave a song on repeat blasting, knowing he's going to show up at 10 o'clock with a clean apartment. But the song choice itself here is was derived from I wanted to use Take a Bow by Madonna originally, and Sandler told me this great story about Rain when Madonna invited him to his house at the apex of his initial stardom, and this album was about to come up. The entire Miami Heat were there at her apartment. He was showing up thinking he had a date with Madonna. He was excited, and the entire Miami Heat were there, and all of their dancers. And she said, "Who wants to hear my new song?" And they came out and did an improvised, perfectly synchronized song to that track. And he said it moved everyone, including the Miami Heat in the room. And so I said to Sandler right after he told me that story, it's like, it's going in the movie. It's funny, people actually feels like something really bad is going to happen to Howard here. I mean, something bad is happening to Howard, but everyone feel like someone's going to be tied up, and like it's funny when
everyone expects a jump scare in the closet,
or right here when the door opens.
Come on, let's go.
I love this right here. This look, this close up,
masterful.
What's going on in my dad's life right there? There's a whole world that I don't know about.
There's always a scene where like one actor really
Look at how
goes to the
good
next
Johnny
level.
is. Let's just
and Johnny,
appreciate
that's
Johnny.
what I'm talking about. I am talking about that right now.
Well, we're saying watch.
That guy told me there's some hot chick living in your apartment. Who's that, Mom?
What are you doing talking to that cokehead?
He was talking
I told
to
you
me.
to
What
go
do
in
you
there.
There's such a he's trying to piece it together, and he really just understood it and did it perfectly.
Who is that, Mom?
And he just said that. You know, that was his knee-jerk reaction there.
I also just love how quickly Howard turns on people.
Yeah, that guy right away. Who did him that favor?
He's just that cokehead.
Yeah.
Oh God, and Johnny really, giving him. He was so good at taking direction, so subtle with his performance.
Look at that eye look.
Yeah, it's really that's him piecing together his father's life right now, and realizing, oh, you're a cheater. You're not the person who I thought you were.
Yeah, that's the moment that we had the moment with his daughter. That's that moment right there.
Mario Castro on saxophone here. This house is really like a jagged gem.
I almost hit Adina in the head with the boom on this one. I was very embarrassed about that one. I think I hit the ponytail.
I love Howard's shoulder bag here, which actually belonged to Johnny's real father, Izzy Aviani.
Yeah, Izzy had all his diamonds and some weed in there.
But this idea of just taking the garbage out.
To me, this is one of the most impactful sound effects in the whole movie.
The rolling.
And then Darius, when Sandler performed this specific action, he really just floored him.
Yeah. The little things.
The way he would hitch the garbage up to take it up was it in particular.
And Howard's a new man. For the sake of appearances.
Big day.
When he showed up on set with this suit that we had made for the film, I said, I'm getting Barry Egan vibes. And he goes, anytime the Sandman puts on a suit, you get the Barry Egan vibes.
This is the Howard Ratner commercial that Sandler throws in. It's like a little Howard Ratner commercial interrupting real life.
So you spend as a filmmaker, you spend all this time, convincing the world that there's value in this story that you're telling, and most independent films, you finish the film and you go to a film festival and you show up and you see the program and there's a bit of an excitement, and then you flip through and you realize you're one page of many others, and everyone else is just vying to prove their worth and in their story, and obviously some critic comes out and says it's worthless. The yellow card. I don't know. This scene's always been meaningful to me.
Fucking 155 bullshit happened?
Did you hear that? Mm-hmm. Okay.
What? What is she saying?
I'm afraid that's your appraisal.
I know that's what it says. I'm asking who came up with the fucking figure.
Oscar and Gems.
Well, Oscar's fucking wrong. I could go out and get
I
six.
love the moment where the conversation breaks down and he's just like, you know what? Just let me do this.
$1,000 a carat.
He's saying he can go to 6
Give me the
appraisers
phone. Can I speak to a please?
And he's trying to be polite.
Haley's great.
Until now.
Until there was great doing this scene.
Also, just a testament to Adam's professionalism. I mean, he was handed all of these pages over lunch on the day of, literally an hour before we shot the scene. Entirely rewritten version of the scene.
to us on a Friday night for an auction set on a Monday morning. We were lucky to be able
I
to
don't
get
give
it
a fuck.
appraised at all.
I don't care. I don't care. It needs to be changed. Do it.
Tilda does a great job reifying the idea that Howard is so far out of his Diamond District element.
Totally.
Well, just the fact that he's wearing a suit to this, you know, he's gotta like. It's
But
a totally different.
I'm deeply in love with the Howard who thinks he's navigating that.
Oh, for
world.
sure. This
Cupcake
that little finger point that Sandler adds.
Just
in there
him
is
putting
so-
on his suit really is
It says it all.
Yeah, it says it all. I remember when I showed up in a suit for like the first Q&A I ever did. It was just like,
Still kind of how you are in a suit when you show up in a Q&A.
Howard's bid towards assimilation.
Mhm.
For sure.
Thinks this is gonna work.
He really believes this.
Oh, of course.
This is gonna work.
See, Howard's not sure if he's calling Anne or she's calling security.
Okay, hey, listen, just fucking put him back in. I don't give a
I got it. This
That's how
in my
quickly he
mind.
made a decision.
In my mind, that is Skip's cameo, because the way Gooey's voice reverberates through
Skip
that.
is our mixer.
See,
Skip
the way it
Lindsay.
reverberates through this marbled lobby. Skip was riding it throughout the scene, so whenever Gooey would get louder, he would raise it and lower it. It's
Benji,
beautiful.
Benji, who's gonna run right now. It's a grown man running to get an autograph from another grown man. That's it's incredible. I love that moment.
He's excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's special because it shows the stardom of Kevin Garnett and
This working-
and I love that Benji can still be youthful. I mean, his character.
And this scene with Judd, I remember when we did
Wait,
this.
hang
he
on.
was- wait.
It
Judd
shows
was
the stardom of Kevin Garnett, but it also shows the kind of stunted adolescence embedded in sports fandom. Too.
Yes.
Yes.
But
Hey, I'm a huge
Sorry,
sports fan.
that's why
Gooey,
there's both things. There's both.
Judd here, there was such a nimbleness on the part of him as a performer and speed. It was so incredible.
200.
You know? They were just firing on all cylinders.
Judd is
you know?
incredible.
I love the spin
The
move.
naturalism.
pictures.
500.
20% I'll give you for the wedding bit.
The way his whole face moves.
KG's gonna buy it. It's not a problem.
You obsessed with this stuff? And and again, these little lilts of Howard, the way he's talking with people, it changes all
You
the time.
can really, in Howard's close-up, you can really see the beautiful C series lenses that we used.
This auction scene, man, oh man.
It's a hard space to find.
And I think we had, how long is the auction? But we had every angle, again, like Passover, you could possibly think of.
I think I remember
Kevin from
when
Kevin
Rudin
from
first
Howard.
saw the first cut of the movie. He commented at this moment. He looked at the auctioneer and said, "Oh, finally, somebody who doesn't have curly hair."
Collector's work, and most importantly, it is windowed on either side.
Kevin's
to
point of
reveal
view.
the full spectrum of its dazzling color and the
It really is. I like approaching this like an action scene. You know, really just going in and thinking, okay, this is the equivalent of a sports match for Howard. So you got all the people, and you got to really go back and forth between everybody.
The phones were very important to me. I went to a bunch of auctions over the years, and I was always the phones were always a mystery to me. That's Bob Rubin right there, who's been very supportive to us, our company, and he's a very cool guy. It's our little cameo for him.
100 grand.
100,000 now.
Bob is so great at this moment. His reaction.
Yeah.
He sees it as so gauche.
It's literally to try and fit 3 reactions in the 100,000. You know, it's insane.
Yeah.
And Arno, this is a big thing. It's like Arno's there. I remember you said Arno's got to be a part of this now.
He's
It's
shaking
true.
right there, our buddy shaking the camera. No one's gonna know what that means, but it means a lot to us.
No further.
These guys are the only people more outside this world than Howard in the room.
But they have
And then
something.
these looks. Sandler's really showing desperation with just the movement of his
Arno knows
eyes.
what's going on.
Yeah, Arno knows both of those. You know, yeah, it's gooey.
130 now. To try 140. 140,000 now. Come on, sir.
There's-
Up it again to 150.
This look right there, so.
To try 160. 160 now. Back against you again, sir. Can we try one more at 170?
That look right there with the eyes. He's subtly telling him, just bid. This moment with I remember
Jenny
talking
right
with
there.
Jenny and them. Yeah.
Jenny Sachs on the left there is actually Joel Embiid's manager, and she was very helpful in attaching Joel Embiid before we ended up having to recast for Kevin because of we went into the season, we couldn't shoot with an active player.
And this right here, to show this from the back. Hold on.
I have to move this along. We have a good bid at 190,000. I'm looking for 200, sir. Move this up any higher, any further.
We just went to ECU on Howard, by the way.
What's great about
There we go.
What's
We
great
already
about it,
saw him say no from behind, you know?
what's crazy is the estimate was right.
Yeah.
The estimate was right.
And the
Okay,
placating
let's
to the
just hold
crowd
on.
here.
Let's just focus on something for a second. His
Yes, thank
son congratulated him
Yeah.
for winning
he beat
an
he
opal.
beat he beat Kevin Garnett. That's why.
Yeah, of course, one-on-one he went to, but
Yeah.
he got blindsided by the fact that he was buying it from his own son-in-law.
It's our set photographer.
I love this.
Thank you. Thank you.
When you go into a building in New York, you forget which
Yeah.
way is up, which way is down.
And again, that moment of that
It's a great New York
switch, that
moment.
turn.
There's construction happening on this block, and
Oh my
they
God.
got a front row view to this entire movie.
Literally, they
entire
were
scene.
when they pour construction for one of these buildings. The amount of cement trucks, you literally have a 10-minute window to just get it done.
Look at Aaron, Benji's character, showing off.
And
the
watch
autograph.
Keith's face right here. He's doing his job, being nice to him, and as
you
soon
did
as
a
he
good
leaves,
job. You got all the
he
autographs
goes
you
back
needed.
to being like, "All right, I'm done with that guy."
See you, Gooey.
There was the bolt cutters. You know, we keep the
Not
street
yet,
alive.
You'll see
Was
it
it
coming up next.
Was the See a Gooey?
That Rolls Royce. No, it's coming up next.
Okay.
buddy.
Richie Rich, thank you.
Yes, that Rolls belonged to Nekteloff, a jeweler family.
Judd
on
was so
42nd
excited to
Street.
curse here.
I love this Howard.
He
doesn't-
switches. He
Another
just gets angry,
classic
yeah.
Howard turn.
He doesn't know who to release anger on, so he's going to release it on the driver. I know.
Let him go. Let him
The
go.
fuck is that?
The fuck was that?
Oh, Benny, you're right. Maybe the
The
bolt
bolt cutters
don't
was
have
there. We
one.
left the street open, and this guy just goes through with these bolt cutters.
So the weird thing here is, this is just the way the world works. Benny and I, 10 years ago, when we first really wrote the first draft of the movie, the first version of this script, the nostalgic retelling, we met with Howard, a guy who our dad worked for in the Diamond District, and we met with him. We took a walk, and we ended up sitting right there.
It's so weird to me.
And I didn't even remember that until I found the photograph.
And that
from
photo,
10
that
years
thing
ago.
was in the background. That plaque.
It's right there.
I know.
The photograph takes right there, open to the public, right there.
Again, the fact that this street was just wide open while this was all going on, it adds such a realism to the whole thing.
I can't
You know,
believe
the fact
Howard
that-
thought that the fake phone call was going to
Yeah,
work.
but Keith being like, "Yeah, you're lucky there's people around." You know, that's all part of it.
This next scene, we only had a certain amount of takes. There's about 100 extras littered amongst hundreds of real people.
And yeah, we put the camera where it can be blocked by people.
Yeah, cameras are pretty far away. I love this right here.
Oh, and this, I remember that moment with Keith. He was not convinced the punch would look real, so he wanted to get much closer to Sandler, and there was no way we were letting him, because he's not actually trained to do that. And I remember we had to show him, we had to film a little punch from like 8 feet apart to show him that it would look normal.
It wasn't until later that night when I realized that I've seen many people bathe in these fountains before that we threw Adam Sandler into.
And a little
It was
thing,
pretty incredible.
that's slippery with those shoes on
Oh,
that
yeah.
marble. I was
We
nervous.
were also inspired by a really great
Oh yes.
piece of material.
Prank.
Call it method action wrestling.
I love
I love all the noises
people-
going on in this hallway right now,
people
because
who
when he
wear-
comes back, if you just listen to it, it's
People who wear glasses, who you only see them wearing glasses. That moment when you see them without them, it always feels really naked and like you're seeing a new side of them for the first time. But really,
and these
you're
are
just
actually
seeing them without some things on their face.
That story you told about the jacket, these are the actual guys that
yeah.
sold the clothes.
The Brioni suits. First time you're seeing The Office from this perspective. Nice Maceo Bishop camera work here too. A reminder of the chaos from the other day, little dead fish. Those are the guys who filmed me that jacket.
Love Joni's response here.
I'm not
I mean,
feeling
those
good.
are the guys pretending to be the guys who sold me that jacket.
Send everybody home.
Sandler's so
All right, sweetie.
Andrea, who plays Joni, she's
there we
incapable
go.
of not being herself. But
All we hear here is Howard's fingers and rings on that stone. It's totally lifeless for him.
there was a piece in the script that we cut out on the day where after he handles the stone, he picks up a crumpled piece of paper and tries shooting it in the basket. Wastebasket.
It was corny. I was happy to see it
I'm
go.
happy to see it go, but I like the idea of it because it's still embedded in.
It's in the ideas behind
idea
that,
of him
yeah.
holding the stone.
And not getting what he needs.
I just wanted to see how the auction went.
Terrible. I don't want to.
Remember we.
Terrible.
I remember we had noise in the background, and when Scott watched it, he goes, "I want there to be a 5-alarm fire outside while this is going on, because the world stops for nobody. You know, that's the point."
Julia's, they're both really fantastic in this.
And this is Warren Shaw in the background. That's our sound designer. He's getting those sounds in there.
Man, I remember reminded of the theatrics of a relationship like this.
I remember talking to Sandler about having to cry like this because we wanted it to be messy and kind of dirty. And then I remember when I was talking to him about it, I told him that, like, you get into this tornado of emotions and you just eventually get caught up. You don't really know what to say and you just let it go. And I was like, it actually could be pretty cathartic to do that in front of people.
I like that there was a challenge briefly online to do the "I'm so sad, I'm so fucked up" performance because the way he does it.
It's great that she comes into the scene assuming he's crying about her.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's totally just they're different points of view. She doesn't know. She doesn't
So
know what
sweet.
he's going through.
it's-
It's interesting
You're
to
my
hear that with
home.
an audience, you know, how they react to that.
"You're my home, you can come to me" is such a devastating line.
It's not going right. Everything I do is not going
And just the way Sandler played this, you know, with such there's a simplicity to the things he's saying.
well, it's so
that
the way he's expressing himself is so blunt and
Yeah.
brutal. Everything I do is not going right.
I'm so sad. I'm so sad.
Oh my God, it's so stupid.
Yeah, so there was one day when Ronnie and I were in the booth. We wrote a lot of this movie in a projection booth, and we would have such epic arguments, and I'd have to take walks. And, you know, I remember one time Ronnie texted me, he's like, "We're still friends, right?" We just had these epic arguments, but I remember we were in this scene, we were at a block, and I called Julia, and I walked her through the scene, the dialogue we had, and I asked her, I said, "What would you do to hit reset on this relationship?" Easy, I'd get a tattoo.
Right, it's
with
so
his
great,
name.
and right away it's like, you can't even get buried with me pops up, and it's about as sincere gesture as one can do. You know, any doubt that one would have in terms of like how deep her connection is with him is sort of instantly answered, or those doubts are staunched as soon as you see her, get a permanent mark on her body. Clearly, she's devoted.
There's something
I forgot to say that when I was talking to Sandler, I actually started crying. And it was a very intimate moment between us.
Benny's the master.
I couldn't help it.
crier. But there's something that the universalness of Howard's low in this moment is that we've seen him do such crazy shit, so many bad decisions, so many wild circumstances, but everyone's been, I think, in life as an adult this low at some point.
And this is important to see Howard at least acknowledge that it's a lot.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
And you need someone. You need someone there to.
I love his face.
That's one of those voice acting moments where to make it seem realistic took a lot of time, but it makes all the difference in the world.
Right now, with $175,000 cash. All right. You said I got.
Is very special.
Yeah, I love it.
Still Monday, so.
They're bringing back Marshall here.
Real. Kevin's really on the way. He was just at the bank.
Look.
Come get your money, buddy.
Where you feel the love.
I need the Celtic ring back.
What happened to Friday?
I know.
It's Monday out.
Marshall.
This is like the way that this
Marshall's-
feels is like a Borscht Belt kind of routine.
Yeah.
Bam, 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 bam.
You know, Marshall has Todd, who Sandler trailed a bunch for the movie. Marshall knows Todd very well, and this scene was it was emotional for him. He understood this scene. He understood the sympathy that you can feel with someone who frustrates you.
Yeah, the moment he's doing something.
And also there's also like a Jewish, brotherhood happening here too, which is also
but
nice
not enough that he's not going to charge
exactly.
a vig.
He's
on
taking the
of
ring
course,
and he's
exactly.
charging him a higher vig than he asked for.
Yeah.
but
and
he
says, "I'm sorry."
But he says, "Booby."
Yeah.
What's going on here? Which is the affection.
But he's still taking that ring.
It starts to do
It's like
business.
like when you see Kobe dunk on someone.
This
and then
was the
pick 'em
first
up
scene. This is the
afterwards,
first
offer
scene
to
we
pick 'em
shot.
up
This is the
afterwards.
first scene we shot with Kevin, and street was wide open, and Kevin just was in the car, and we rushed because we were trying to beat the light. And I remember when Kevin got out, he just had to fold into it. He's like, "All right, this is how it's gonna be."
So
and
the upcoming.
there's no time to think.
Right here, Sandler does this great thing.
I
here.
love it.
He mimics Kevin.
Because it's like a subconscious acting choice that when Kevin decides to take ownership of the room, Howard's like, "You know what? It was my idea." Takes ownership also.
So this scene here is probably the scene we spent the most time writing, and the most time editing, and we had the least time to shoot.
Just playing with me at some point. This hasn't been straight since I came
Yeah,
here.
this is again, it's just two characters sitting there, and having this conversation. But there were an infinite amounts of ways this scene could go.
Somebody bid against me all these fucking games. Like,
KG called me coach at one point during this scene.
I know none of this.
It's complicated,
To
Kate.
come in and do that, and to switch up the scene on him and have him come in with different emotions and different speeds. Kevin rolled with everything.
I've already taken that out, all right?
All right, I guess that's fair.
Let me get the fucking opal, man. Let me get the fuck up out of
It's
here.
opal.
Yeah.
This opal's very valuable for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, I did that.
Get the fuck out.
I respect you.
I love that.
I did that. He's proud. It's what he did.
Just letting him know.
Huge fan.
What'd you pay for this? Real shit. What'd you pay for this right here?
That's not a fair question, Kevin. All right, we're talking.
And he calls him Kevin. He calls him Kevin.
I'm not gonna take the money back when I did the deal. Now, I'm just saying, straight up, me and you, mano a
I
mano.
just love the naturalism that Kevin has here. The way he's talking to Howard is just so.
That's. I'm telling you, that's. If I answer that question, it's very misleading.
Why?
I paid $100,000. Okay.
So you doubled your money.
I'm the joke here, all right? I got fucked. $1 million is what I was supposed to get. I get a fucking what? Made 65 G's?
You gave some niggas from Ethiopia $100,000 for something you thought was worth $1 million. You don't see nothing wrong with that, Howard?
Ethiopian miners, you know what these fucking guys make? $100,000's 50 lifetimes for these fucking guys.
$1 million is more.
That way that Howard's kind of shaking his body on that line.
Fucking 30 points, KG. Right? I see you out there when the fucking stadium's all booing you. You're 30 up, you're still going full tilt. Let's see what does Vegas got you guys?
It's hard to not just fold into watching the movie at this point, because this is where I watch. From this point on is when I can watch the movie every single time.
We don't keep tracking on that shit. Who
They
gives a
think
fuck?
on Game 7.
I love that when we were talking to Kevin about this scene, he's like, "Do you realize what is being asked of me as a character right here? On game night, somebody's bringing up the betting lines right in front of me with a bag of money on the table." It was unbelievable.
Come on, KG. This is no different than that. This is me. All right? I'm not a fucking athlete. This is my fucking way. This is how I win. All right? All the fucking hard work I do, all the fucking ass kicking and the dues I pay, you're not going to score on the big one? On Game 7?
I remember when Scott Rudin saw the first cut of the film that he saw. It was after about 3 months of editing.
He said it was his favorite scene.
And then he says one of the greatest scenes of any movie he's ever seen. And then about 2 hours later he goes, "Needs so much work. It's one of the worst scenes
It's
ever."
one of the worst edited scenes I've ever
It's
seen
one of
in
the
my
greatest
life.
movies he's ever seen, but it was the worst edited scene in the film. That's
Yes.
what he basically said at that point.
And I was just like,
but it
"Oh
was
my
good.
God."
He pushed us often. And
Yeah, what he
moments
was
we
really
needed
saying is this has the potential to be the
Yes.
sort of
And it was-
tentpole of the entire movie, but it's
And
not
he was
there
right.
yet.
And it was just literally, it was a matter of trying to understand each point of view, but trying to get it across in a way that was.
We're a team tonight, kid.
This cue.
It was really it was a balancing act, and trying to
Sure,
get just
in the writing as well,
Yeah.
because you don't want to create the sense
Yeah.
of a thesis.
Exactly, and it's and there were deliveries of each of them where they were really hitting it too hard on the nose, and you really have to kind of cut and get rid of all that.
What the fuck? Hey, do you mind watching this baseball?
Love shot.
Yeah. Just having them talk, the conversations that they were having before.
I just love the shot because you see them, the collective group here. And I just love that right there, that Julia.
This look right
that
there,
that a slimy guy who would hit you with the most sexist comment ever. It's like they're like rubber bullets to her. They bounce right off.
There's
her.
something about Mitchell on film. He looks so good.
Yeah,
and it's just such a pleasure again to be able to deal with these. You have these chess pieces.
Yeah.
You have these plot mechanics, and be able to
to move
wind
them around,
up the whole movie and now slowly start to
Exactly. Yeah. Just make it. You can move them around, and you know that it's going to be pulling strings. Yeah.
This was one of the first scenes that we shot in the movie. It was like second day or something like that. And I remember there was pressure for us to reshoot this because there was a concern that there wasn't going to be intense enough. And the reality is that Howard knows he's actually very at ease with his decision right here.
And also, technically, the guys in the showroom think everything is fine. He's just having a conversation with Kevin in the other room.
And again, if you look at it structurally, similar to the introduction of getting trapped in the door and
Yeah.
how that plays out later. Here we introduce this idea, this romantic idea of them hanging out the window only to get him, out the window in the most perilous way.
So that guy right there who
later.
popped his head up, who looked at her, she says, "Thanks, Joe."
I
Joe
love
is
that
the
shot.
owner of the building, and he was one of the first people to really embrace us. We actually shot a 35mm camera test. Sean Price Williams actually shot that. We did that in 2013 or something like that, and he featured it, and he had a little leg cast, and he was very, very helpful to us the entire time. His whole family.
This
was.
moment right here, I don't know what made us think it was possible, but to have this, we had these two conversations happening at exactly the same time every time, and we were so confident that it was going to happen, and it did work. I'm totally amazed by it, to be able to get them to cut together that way. And there was such a raw aggression back there. This Keith bringing it up to such a level, and then I remember Sandler said to us, he's like, after doing one, he's like, I'm not going to let him push me around like that. And the fact that he slaps him right there. And this shot of Arno, this one coupled with the next one where he's like, he's going to become complicit in this moment.
They call it a machine.
Yes, I love that.
Move the machine.
That's my favorite. That's how Keith. That's how it came out with Keith.
But that was the moment that we discussed with Eric when we first met with him about playing in the movie. That was the moment that inspired him to do the film because it's the spot.
Look at Sandler's beat red. He's actually hanging out of.
They're really hanging him out of the window. Yeah. What do you mean?
Listen to me.
And that was on a stage.
And but he was still hanging outside of. He was 20 feet off the ground. He was hanging out of a window.
He really was hanging.
He was hanging out of a real window.
Yes, the real window wasn't on a.
Well, his blood is responding to gravity, whether he's 20 feet off the ground or 200 feet.
And it's the same rigging system for above a building or out there.
She's a Mohican son.
Come on, let's go.
Put it on speaker.
Keith.
He had the beta blade app, okay?
Keith as an actor is unbelievable. And there were little things that we knew that, like, when we met with him and cast him, that he would bring just like things like that, these little moments of just truth.
By the way, the Blade app wasn't a thing until 2014, but the Blade website.
No,
the Blade wasn't even around till 2014, but
I think it was.
We acknowledge.
I believe that
there was a version of Blade. Those things don't just happen.
I believe that it was.
They don't just happen. That was around in 2012.
You could
maybe
charter
wasn't
a
public.
helicopter.
They're working on it.
Yes.
You
Howard
could charter
had
a
access.
helicopter.
He's a big helicopter guy.
You could charter a helicopter in 1972.
And this moment right here, Keith and Sandler going toe to toe, and he just has no fear of this moment. It's beautiful.
The thing to me that pushes this exact scene over the edge is Josh's idea to use these meditation bowls here. It's so counterintuitive. It works so well.
There was that chisel.
Yeah. Oh man, I love his face in the green of the glass.
I agree.
And this.
That pull out that the camera work was. And the split screen.
Yeah.
There.
The Sixers shouldn't even be there.
This was. Ronnie, do you remember the McDonald's?
Yeah, that's That's where we devised the climax of the movie.
They're gonna get to the garden before you fucking understand.
Open the door!
I know you're upset, Arnold.
Of course I'm
all right?
upset.
I'm trying to
Josh's car broke down, and we ended up in a McDonald's, and it's probably one of our most fruitful writing sessions.
And then do you remember what happened with the group of teenagers? We don't have to get into that.
This is fucking bulletproof. You're only gonna hurt yourself. That doesn't.
I remember telling Keith that was his, like, there are certain things that you tell the actors that they can do to shift the scene, and that at any moment Keith could just pull that out and shift the conversation to the right moment.
Was it Ibsen who said if a gun comes out?
I think it was Chekhov.
Chekhov, excuse me, Ibsen.
What did he say?
Thank you, Benny.
Yeah.
He said, I think if the gun,
you see it in the first, you're right.
It's
Oh,
gotta
no,
go.
we said it. I mean, at this point, everybody seems to have said it.
What do they say? What does everyone
I
say?
think it's
That if a gun appears in
the first
in a piece
act,
of fiction,
right,
at some
must
point
go
it
off.
must go on.
Nina, it's me.
So I
But to
guess
the
we
people
just-
who are watching this for the first time,
It doesn't.
we don't
go
know.
Off. It doesn't go off.
Benny, no one's watching this for. If they're watching,
If
it for
you're
the
still
first
I
time-
watching
really,
it,
really
stop.
hate guns in movies, so I was happy to push its appearance to as the last possible minute.
I'm not here to argue with you. Dina, get the kids out of the house. I'm frightened, okay? Just get out, go to Amy's, and do not leave there until I get
It
home.
was a look that we missed of Keith. That's just so scary and harrowing as he watches him on the phone, looking at him. And those are actually the moments that when you see something like that, you actually dedicate the whole scene to revolve around those things.
Here we get to the great Wayne Diamond.
So I was in this helicopter with him. We shot for about 3 hours. I don't think I've ever laughed as hard as I did during those 3 hours of shooting. He just went off on these monologues of just garish, nouveau riche mockery. I mean, it was. He's a guy who I met through SIBO. SIBO met him at a restaurant once where he was the loudest guy in the restaurant. And he's like, Josh, you got to meet this guy,
Yeah.
Wayne Diamond. And we ended up doing a hour-long podcast with him, which was, and then our friend filmed with him a little bit at a restaurant, and he's just so opinionated.
This is Debbie DeLisi, our amazing background.
He's like an Uber Garmento, and Fashion Avenue, Manhattan, 1970s. He used to party with my uncle. They were good friends. I
when
only
did you
discovered
learn that? Yeah.
Not until I
Until you
guess
showed the film to your family?
I knew he was from the Garment
Well,
Center.
you were
so
talking with Wayne, and it came up, and it
Yeah.
was like, Bronstein, wait a second.
But
he's
he's
a
incredible.
self-proclaimed schmata king.
Yeah.
He is a sense assaulter. He can assault every single one of the five senses at once. Maybe not taste, unless
This
you
is
were
the
to shove
whole
something in your
Mohegan
mouth.
Sun crew, right? When we got there, we just
That's
wanted
Chad
to use,
who runs the
We wanted
book.
to use everybody who worked there.
Yeah.
Chad is the one who accepted that parlay for all you gambling aficionados out there. Okay.
Listen, that's a dumb bet.
It's a dumb bet.
Beautiful. This is it, boys. This is it.
This is where we are about to witness the single craziest manic thing that Howard does in the movie for me, which is betting on the opening tip.
Does it the first bet too, though?
He does, yeah.
That's his thing. It's his trademark. But I think there really was a statistic that Kevin Garnett often did win the opening tip. Because remember the rondo, they would do that whole thing where he would accept it like a quarterback and all
they'd
that
have
stuff.
a routine.
Yeah.
Yes.
You don't have a routine if you don't.
If you
you're
don't
not
do it
used
a
to
lot.
getting-
Yeah. KG, that shows how competitive KG is.
Yeah.
He wants that tip.
Of course. Get that fucking tip.
That's in, okay? I'm taking you to the fucking the Ritz.
Three grown men
just the-
sitting in a fish tank. Is,
The amount of different points of view of each one of these people.
But I remember talking with Sammy.
The best one's coming out.
Yes,
right before the tip.
Right before the tip is the moment we switch to Arno's point of view, and it cuts back and forth right here.
Right out the gate. Come on, man.
Right here, Arno looking. We see his point of view of the TV, and then he goes back to Howard, and you see Howard from the outside. There it is. And Howard's totally oblivious to everything else except that television. It's a great moment. Yes. And he admits it to everybody.
Yeah.
remember spending a lot of time with Sammy, figuring out the right tint to this glass.
Yeah.
To create this.
It's
the
endless
difference.
possibilities.
Sammy Lysenko, our production designer. Just focusing on rebounds, making an audience, a novice
Care
audience,
and
not
understand.
who doesn't normally understand basketball or the way betting works. Just focusing a statistic, like a rebound.
We actually do have Sandler going through every single one of Kevin's shots and rebounds, which is amazing. I'd like to see a basketball game with just Howard.
I was going to say, rebounds are a conceptually deep
they are.
statistic.
So the night before we shot this scene at Mohegan Sun, I was restless. I couldn't fall asleep, so I decided to go down and shoot some crap just to get some steam off. And I ended up shooting crap with that man who Julie is talking to, named Aura. And then he was very warm. And then I texted Sibo and I said around
2:30, 3
I
a.m.
was like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just in my room. I was like, can you come back down to the craps table with me? There's a guy there who I really want to get into the scene tomorrow.
We didn't have was this role written?
It was written. The thing in the script that it said was she talks. Because remember, we were trying
was
to
no
do
dialogue.
We were trying to do this thing constantly to manage the budget, where we would not put a scripted.
Don't tell
line
people
in.
this. We're gonna work. We still have to make movies in the future.
Anyway, so we had in the script it just said a better explains.
Well, and sometimes you get inspired on the set and you give them lines.
But we had not casted this part, and we were shooting it the next day. And it was 3 a.m. Shlomo was at the crab table.
I will say when
what was his line that he kept saying?
Shooter.
I will say.
Do it again, Danny.
He would throw the dice and he would say shooter.
I will say it was very clear to a lot of the background that would happen. So when everybody was there and we would pick the background, you could see a sense of excitement, like, oh, I'm gonna get a line. You know, it was just.
But the other incredible thing is that this guy had no idea. He trusted us.
Yeah.
You know, it was 3
Oh my
a.m.
God.
in Mohegan Sun, and we're asking him to be in a movie.
Yeah, no, and then
Sounds
he shows
very
up.
sus.
I know, and then he shows up,
He
and
was
it's a
really
big,
suspicious.
it's a big movie, and he was totally natural.
He was doing bong rips in the parking lot before.
The beauty of betting. And this again, we
were not.
We obsess so much over the sound.
I could never smoke weed.
Oddly
and
enough,
make a movie. You kidding me?
Mohegan
Can't even smoke weed and
Sun.
hang out with someone.
Mohegan Sun is actually not a very loud casino. You know, there's not a lot of those noises that you associate. Actually, Doc Rivers right here. We told Doc the scenario, and he said, just give me 2 minutes. And he sat back and he wrote this insane speech for the locker room that he
But
gave.
the Roaches is inspired
It's
by
from-
a
yeah.
Clippers speech
For
that he
sure.
gave. But to me, that's a line to the Holocaust. Even it's just like you can't exterminate us.
Yeah.
You know.
And this actually, when we shot this whole sequence with Sandler, I love this. This is
Okay,
something we actually got the game very late in the production. And again, these are one of these moments that you see on the broadcast that you would attach to if you were watching the game because you just have the time.
Yeah, going into the shoot, we only had access to the highlights from this game, and I knew that someone who watches basketball, it's the little things that stand out to you in the broadcast. That guy who he points to, that goads Keith, and that's the moment where Keith realizes I'm gonna shoot this man in the face.
I always joke that Keith.
But he said we showed the film in Boston, and I said, does anyone know who that guy is? He goes, oh yeah. Maybe shouldn't have done that.
Maybe we should.
Apologies.
Yes,
And I heard he
apologies.
actually lost a lot of weight and is looking great. And we're going to try at your restaurant.
I do actually always joke that in that moment because Keith is paying attention to the game. So he's like, yeah, they're up by 3 points. Philly's in the bonus. They have 2 timeouts left. He's got it all in his head.
We're at 25 now.
This whole sequence was insane. You know, how do you keep it? That was such a.
This is another spot where everyone thinks something
Yes.
bad is going to happen, huh?
I think some people think that maybe something good's gonna happen. A little bit of sex, maybe.
Well,
I think
TLC?
I think that's what Wayne.
Good
is
for
thinking.
who? There.
It's definitely
For
what
Wayne?
Wayne is thinking.
Wayne. Everyone should know his name in the script is handsome older male. He'd like everyone to know that.
It's High Roller.
And I love that he's got the iPad.
Yeah, and also obviously just the classic sleazy move. I'm gonna get in the shower.
Yeah. I wish we could keep the actual outtake of how proud he was of how good he was at showering. He was the best at showering.
Yeah, he improvised a bunch of lines. He's like, I'm gonna take a shower. I'm the best at showering.
Oh,
There's
I'm
no
the
one
best.
better
The way
than
I
me.
wash.
There's no one better than me at getting showered. I get the cleanest. When I'm done with the shower, nothing is dirty. It's all clean. And then later, when he shows up with the towel, he goes, "Put me in a towel. No one looks better than me in a towel."
He has an unbelievable skill set, very diverse.
This was
washing and wearing a towel.
This was tough. Look, the
I
score
love
is only
Wayne. Love you, Wayne.
57-54.
I love you. Look at him. I love him.
68-73 in the fourth.
68-73 is
It's a low
the wrong
scoring
way
game.
to say the score, which makes it a unique line.
Yes.
It's true.
It's red. It's red as it would normally be. Yes, because Julia does not watch sports.
She doesn't know.
And it was interesting to talk to her
She's
about
the
it.
audience at that
because
point, sharing about a
the
thing
way. And I
she
remember
doesn't
telling
normally
her
care
just
about.
like whenever you feel something, it's gonna feel awkward and weird, but you just gotta go with it. Oh.
Bogosian is so great in the bowl.
Cigarette is the only thing that's
He said,
signifying the different.
and he had quit, and he had quit, and he's like, but I'll bring it back. Bogosian was so happy. He was like, because he really just wanted to get into Arno.
So the cosmic nature of this movie, obviously you hear it in the score, but it's great that in this moment, you have a man, a jeweler in the Diamond District, whose chief concern about the outcome of his life depends on the microsecond of a basketball player hitting a free throw, while at the same time on the other side of the planet you have a miner whose chief concern about the outcome of his life is if a faulty piece of equipment is going to fall on him and kill him.
That shot of Kevin
shows the connection between all of us here.
That shot of Kevin from the broadcast just feels like it's just totally part of the movie.
This whole sequence of shots of Bogosian here speak
And-
to the nuances of his performance and the
his eyes.
delicacies of the way he can perform.
This cut, I don't know what it is. That Howard to her, it's just one of those things where you just don't know what it just.
It's called
ranks
the
a
chemistry
goosebumps,
equation. Yeah. Her
And
cell
this,
phone case.
remember talking with Julia here, this moment, because we see her when they win. You know, we're not with Howard at that moment.
Oh my god! Holy shit! Oh my god! I love you! I love you! I love you! I love you! I love you!
I think in the script we had it so that the Wayne comes back out and celebrates when we got rid of that. And I loved seeing this dialogue in the script always. It was just a big block of "I love yous."
And when that was happening, remember when that was happening
hold
on
on.
set?
Eric's performance right here. Let's just appreciate it. So he's putting his jacket on
with those eyes. Yeah.
There's something about putting your
Again,
jacket
that's,
on
that's
when,
one of
when
those,
you're leaving.
That's one of those moments that you build around, you know.
Keith here.
It's hot.
So
he says.
Keith was so interesting in his questions here as a performer. He's like, how much am I trying to hide my action?
And he looks away right before he does
And we
it.
had this decision with when we finally saw this set built, and we saw the mirrored ceiling.
Yeah, to go
that
up.
we would do this effect that the camera, like a machine, gets turned off. That's Howard is this motor mouth that just gets turned off like a machine. All of a sudden, he's off now forever. Exterminated. And just the idea of keeping this loose camera thing that when he gets shot, the camera basically, the operator falls away and it just whips up to the ceiling. And
it's a totally
it's
new
tough,
feeling.
Tough to do, and Maceo did a great job operating that.
And then I remember Chris Solano.
Well, this
to try and
sequence right
find
here,
to try and find the focus on Howard.
This sequence right here, this scene right here is we should discuss it because it was originally designed. We
As a
thought we'd
sound.
shoot it so that we could at least have the most effective sound design. And Eric and Keith, they just went to another level as performers. And when Eric pushed the gun away from him, it went into Keith's face and actually punctured skin, and he was bleeding. And it catalyzed an incredible confrontation that
resulted, in like what
it
we
was,
just
and
saw.
we
And I remember there were things like, is this real or is it not?
Well, do you remember?
And Keith grabs Eric's collar.
Yeah.
And I remember the stuntman saying, if you ever want to grab somebody by the neck, you grab him by the collar. So when I saw that, I knew Keith was just totally in it.
Keith was performing.
And Amy went up to Eric, and Eric is like, do not cut that with
But
his
I do
eyes.
remember one of the sound people.
Yeah, he ran out. He was
freaked
afraid.
out, and went and complained and said, "This
Because
is an unsafe set."
it felt
because it
so
was,
raw.
Yeah,
you know, it felt so alive. But again, you have to be open to moments like that happening.
Here comes my My little cameo.
Not yet. Oh, it's not.
It's coming up. It's right here in the bottom left of your frame. I'm betting right there. Boom. That's me.
You're losing so much.
Oh
on
my
horses
God!
today.
Are you kidding me?
It was fun to do
Ronnie,
this
you
with
remember
Kevin.
with The Rock? I
Don't
kept trying to explain to Ronnie. It's like
I used
I was
to
like,
torture.
well, I kept
wait, hold on, wait,
explaining
because
to
Kevin's
Ronnie.
saying it right now. We allowed Kevin to have his ability to go back into 2012 and talk about the future that could have been. But
Yeah, I said to Ronnie, I said, no, he should say, it's me and The Rock. I was like, it's so obvious to talk about the gem like this. No, The Rock is slaying for a basketball.
Yeah, I
in
had
the
no
game.
idea. So I went to prove to him that wasn't the case for no reason other than to annoy him, and found something online that was so horrible and annoying, and I've been sending it to him ever since.
The tear of blood here is Howard is a martyr. He had to die. It's the parabolic nature of the movie. It's a fable. It's a moral tale, really. It's there's no other way that this story.
And Brainstorm did such an amazing job with all of this stuff.
Yeah, we really pushed him hard. None of that is real. And here we're, in an explicitly formal level, we're telling the audience that Howard is the gem. Howard is the uncut gem, and the film is called Uncut Gems, and it's asking people to look past those superficial flaws, the little things that might rub you the wrong way, and get deep underneath to something and of value that we are impossibilities. We are miracles. It sounds corny to say it, but it is true. In all of our ugliness, there's something there. I like watching this part with an audience. It feels like you're like almost in like Epcot Center or something, going through a ride. And it is beautiful. It's like the Stargate sequence. Actually, the song here that comes up for the credit sequence is the song that we've had in the script for about 8 years. It's the song that lives with Howie.
And then we're left with the stars.
What? Who's gonna? Ronnie, you want to read all the credits?
No.
Thank you for listening. And if that was your first time watching, I hope you
You're
enjoyed.
a psychopath.
Yeah,
if that was the
don't.
first
Come
time
on,
watching,
Benny. You're encouraging this.
I am encouraging it. I'm telling you, there's somebody out there who does it.
No.
There is. There has to be.
What? There's someone who just likes watching with an audience?
Yes. And they want, or Mystery Science Theater type thing. I don't know. That's what Mystery Science Theater is. A lot of people haven't seen those movies. You watch it with people talking about it.
I mean, do you guys want to continue watching this right now?
I
we're
think
good.
we can go.
Thank you to everybody who's on this list.
Yeah,
you did
thank you.
such
And-
amazing work, and we wouldn't have been able to do it.
And if you've listened to this entire commentary, please send an email to uncutgem@kmhgemsandjewelry.com, and you will receive a very special prize for your dedication.
Friends
your
of Howie
interest.
discount?
It's a Friends of Howie discount. Send that email, and if you get a bounce back, just keep sending it.
Yeah.
Eventually it'll reach someone, and your appreciation will be felt.
Right. People survive face shots all the time.
That is true. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening.